We haven't done an intro in a long time. Welcome to Illogically Ignorant. What was it number 38? I
37?
never know the number. I think it's 37 or 38. I
Yeah.
should have researched. That's on me. Uh, Today because I'll give a little backstory. Luke and I tried to record an episode last week, and he was depressed being on a cruise, and he hated it. And then I was trying to fill in the gaps in the energy, but I was watching the news, so I was also depressed. So it was a really rough podcast, and I texted him the day after. I was like, "Hey, like, do we want to upload this? Like, it's not good." So we decided to scrap it, and I was like, "We need a breath of fresh air." So finally, I think we discussed probably over a year ago about having you on as a guest. Um, Today we were joined by the most one of the most successful people I know, a C-suite soon to be executive and aspiring Gymshark, uh, Lululemon, all that influencer, and big city improv extraordinaire. So, well, if you'd like to give a little intro, that's your that's all I know.
That is a better intro than I would have given myself. Um, no, everything you said is absolutely correct, minus the fact that I don't wear Lululemon actually, and I never have, and I don't know if I ever will at this point.
Hmm.
Um,
Why is that?
we'll you know, I've tried it, and I don't think I've ever felt worse than the day I left the Lululemon changing room, and I just like never went back after one time going there. I will say I am a Gymshark girl till I die, and I was cooking dinner, and I was like, I really need to start working on that sponsorship because I just bought a package from them last week. I was like, this is ridiculous. Should be getting it for free.
See, I've had the
You should
opposite
be.
experience because with Lululemon, I was always like, oh, that's a girl brand. Like I don't wear Lululemon. I'm only gonna wear like what's a guy like? Is Gymshark the guy brand? I feel like it's not right. Like what's like the
Or
guy gym brand?
what? Young LA?
Young LA, yeah, like Young LA. I was like, I need to be like a guy and wear Young LA. But then like once I'm someone at work was like, hey, like you should try these like Lululemon shorts. I was like, I don't like the line or everything. I tried them and like I don't wear anything else anymore. Like I'm just a Lululemon guy now. So that is odd that you're not into it. I feel like it would be a
Yeah,
nice sponsorship for you.
men I've noticed are wearing Lululemon more than like the girls I know these days. Young LA is interesting because I've always thought of that as a girl brand. I've never tried it. That's on my list. Um, but I don't know. I feel like whenever I think of like a boy brand or like a boy gym, if I see anything from like Gold's Gym, I've never been, but everyone that I've ever met, I'm like, that is a serious gym bro. Uh,
Yeah,
whenever I
I
see
will
it.
say, I feel like,
Classic Arnold for back in the 80s.
but I feel
Rocking the
like
Gold's
most of the
Gym.
guys I've seen most of the guys I've seen wearing Gold's Gym tank or like Gold's Gym shirt. I feel like I would put money on they've never been. Like there's no way that many people like it's not that common, right? Like it's like guys
Yeah.
like in Indiana wearing that Gold's Gym. I was like, we don't have one for the next 400 miles. Like you've never been to a Gold's Gym.
It's also like the dichotomy of like it's either the most ripped person you've ever seen in your entire life, or just somebody that's never stepped inside of a gym ever wearing Gold's Gym merch.
Nikola, is your plan to just become the most ripped person ever? We were talking about starting a East Coast like Bradley Martin brand.
Um, that's a great question. I'm currently undergoing a really tough quarter life crisis. So there's like 6 paths I'm considering, and I just don't know which one to go full speed. So it's a little bit of everything at the moment. I recently taken a little bit of a break from the gym just because I'm at the point where like I'm starting to get injuries in places I've never experienced injuries before. And that's like a new thing for me. I've never been athletic. Um, and I've always denied myself going to the doctor. I hate going. So I'm like, oh, I'll just give it like a week and I'll recover. But I think it's getting to the point where I had to set an appointment. So
I feel like at least that's generally a pretty gym rat thing to do. I think you fit the mold pretty well. Like Luke and I both have injury. Luke more than me, injury wise, but like
yeah.
neither of us take care of our bodies enough, even though one of us is a PT. So there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think I've had enough injuries now where like I know how to prevent everything, but it's just like the injuries that I've had in the past just kind of like linger on, and they don't really cause me day to day issues anymore, but they're just like there. Like I'll like wake up and sleep funny. I'll just be like, oh, my back hurts today. Doesn't feel the best.
Is it also like a question of aging?
Yeah, for sure. I like when I was on the cruise. This is the first time this has ever happened. I was able to like sleep, and then I would wake up the next day and have like just
His pain was so bad
God, we'll
he
never
cut out.
know. He left us in suspense.
Oh, he just looks
Oh,
in pain in that frame. Um,
I was listening to, like, past episodes. I was like, "I have to study up on what they've already talked about." I was listening to past episodes this morning, and I was like, "Oh," like, I totally forgot what Luke did. I'm like, "I should ask him about the pain in my foot." I get to,
I
like,
will say
miscellaneous and pain.
I don't know at what point he's gonna start charging me, but like I did have certain points where like I think it was a few months ago, and I was like, oh, like I have some shoulder. I had like three separate injuries, and I remember I was like, I have a free PT, and I was like, I'm worried he's gonna start charging me at some point in my life, but like now at least before he got his full time job when he was still an unpaid intern, I was like, you can utilize his knowledge, and he's not like legally allowed to charge me yet, so
who is it?
that
Is
was
this
nice.
me?
Yes, this is you.
Okay,
Nicole was saying
okay.
she was talking about getting some free PT from you as well. So
Oh gosh, yeah, I could definitely like give tips and tricks, but I don't know. Telehealth PT, just I don't know what to do. I would just be like, okay, show me how to like, show me how you're walking, and you'd have to like position the camera just right and be like super goofy.
I think the only PT appointment I ever made, it was for my knee. I was running, like, 3 5Ks a week, with, like, terrible running shoes and probably terrible form. And they canceled on me, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just not gonna go." And then my knee recovered, and I was like, "Oh, I'm fine now."
Oh, they
Um,
canceled on you? That's terrible.
yeah, I know. I was like, "Oh, it's just." I mean, I was happy. I didn't wanna go. So it
Uh,
was, like,
but was
fortuitous
that
for me.
was that when you were? Is that when you were? Since you've been out in New York, or has that been? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The PTs out there are just they're built differently. They see like 20 to 25 patients a day, so they're probably just like, please cancel her. I need a break.
how was your experience with the big city though? I feel like that's a big part just because I think I'm the closest out of like our group to being in a big city, and I'm not. Like it doesn't even compare to Chicago, which I think doesn't even compare to New York. So what's your experience been like? You're from Illinois
We're
originally, right? Like how
yeah, I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. So to me, like, the only other city bigger than Chicago was New York, and anything else would have seemed smaller. But I where are you guys based out of? I didn't know that.
so I'm out of Virginia Beach. So like it's a city, but it's not a city like Indianapolis, and it's not even as big as Indianapolis, I'd say. So I wouldn't consider it much of a city. But
Yeah, and I'm just right outside of Indy.
I was just in Virginia recently. I loved it. New York is one of those places I think where if you stay for too long, you start to hate it, and like you start to understand why people assault each other on the streets. Like, it's I don't know if you've like ever heard of the study where like put a bunch of rats in one place and they started like making the space smaller and the rats got more aggressive. That's what living in New York kind of feels like. But if you can like delay any sort of gratification for long enough, there is a payoff. Um, I'm in the part where it's still painful, unfortunately.
was the payoff just like more New York? Like you just get to move to a slightly larger cupboard. And
Right, right. Slightly larger cupboard is a great way to put it. Um, like I think that's the irony of living in New York is like there's really not much to like about it on paper. Like it's really expensive. You will meet some of the worst people you've ever met in your life here. Random bad accidents, like no privacy, no space. But at the same time, it's like there is a lot to do here, and I think there is a lot of opportunity, especially like work wise. The only thing is like you will be working really, really long hours for a cupboard and for an expensive way of living. Like, um, yeah, I guess that's the way I put it. It's a lot of pain for very little payoff, but there is some charm to it, but it's not for everyone.
So what's a good question. So what's your end goal with New York? Is that something where you can see yourself in the long term, or do you think it's just going to be a quick couple of years there and then move on to something else?
If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I've been like, "I hate this place. I need to leave." And that's like a cyclical journey. Everybody it's like an unspoken rule here, unless like you're a New York native, which that's a completely different story, but it's like an unspoken rule that you have to leave every so often or you're going to go crazy. And for the last 6 months I didn't leave New York and I was starting to go crazy. And I'm talking in a way where like I feel like you can actually feel yourself like being more tired and being angrier, and like I think your central nervous system is literally like giving you signs that you need to leave. And I left for 4th of July and I went to Virginia and I was in the middle of nowhere. We are in like the Shenandoah Valley. Um, there was no noise, there was no people. It was so nice and it was such a great reset. And at that point, like if I had stayed there for way longer, I'd be like, no, I need to get back to the city. Like there's nothing to do here. I've exhausted it all. And then you start to appreciate New York again after you've taken a break from it. Long term, I didn't answer the question. Long term, I have no idea. It depends on like realistically what I can afford. I think if you can afford to live in New York, you can live a really great life. The question is, can you afford it? And most of the time, the answer is no.
Hmm.
Uh, so it just depends. I think if I somehow got like a crazy salary boost to where I could afford like a nice 1 bedroom apartment, which in New York goes like starting would be like $4,000 a month for like a nice
Yeah.
apartment, like a normal people apartment.
Yeah.
Um, but then you have the laws, like you have to make 40 times your monthly rent in New York to even like legally be allowed to rent it without a guarantor.
Wait, you said
40
40
times.
times?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
So a lot of the people I know with really nice apartments in New York, their parents pay it or they're like subsidized by their parents. They don't pay for it themselves.
Yeah.
So your so you mentioned like you're kind of pursuing or looking into like 6 different exit strategies. Is like part of that just kind of contingent on, hey, like, am I going to be able to afford this? Or like, because it sounds like overall you enjoy it, even though you need like some breaks and to leave once in a while. But it sounds like overall, outside of the absurd 40 time budget kind of thing, like that, it's sort of in your wheelhouse. Like New York's kind of your thing.
Something I've been doing, like I will stress look at apartments in other cities to see what I could get with my current salary. Because the funny thing is, like, I got really lucky with my job. I can be remote and work from anywhere, like at my current salary. Um, so I can afford something really, really nice in places that are way cheaper, and I just choose not to because my office is in New York, and I like go in maybe a couple times a week. So sometimes I'll be like, what can I get in Chicago or like South Carolina? Like I will start looking at the most random places. And I was passing through Lancaster, Pennsylvania, because my friends live there, and I was like, hey, I really like your apartment. How much do you pay for it? They told me, I was like, I can afford that easily. And then I'm like, okay, but what do you do like when you're bored? That's what I'm afraid of, is like moving to a place where I'm gonna be bored because in New York, it's kind of like college part two where yes, I live in a shoebox, but you're almost like not meant to spend time in your apartment. You're meant to leave it and like go do other things. If you're purely living in New York to spend a lot of time in your apartment, like you should just, and that's where like the improv comes in, and like I was taking Italian classes and I've done those like random dinner with strangers. And so I think like once I exhaust the fun things to do, maybe I'd realistically look at moving to a place like Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But I'm afraid that if I do that too early, I'm gonna get bored and then I'm like, why did I move?
Yeah, you're surrounded by all this like external stimulation where like if you go somewhere that's a little bit more quiet, doesn't have as many fun things to do, and I don't know. I feel like it's a hard skill to build to like just kind of like be by yourself and like just have fun just like around the house, especially if you've been in New York for that period of time where it's just I don't know, it's just easier to like walk down the street or walk down a couple blocks and there's just things to do everywhere.
When I graduated, I think like I was not vocal about this because this was such a terrible time in my life, but I lived in Bloomington for 6 months after graduation,
Oh wow.
like in a townhouse with my friend. The plan was to live there for a year. And we were living like there's like a medical factory in Bloomington, and we were living near that. So we were like not close to the university or anything for that matter. I didn't have a car. I was just working remotely, and the only other person I knew at that time that I was seeing every day was my roommate, who got sick of me at some point. It was such a boring experience that we decided to cut that lease 6 months early. The irony now is that life is so fast paced that sometimes I wish I could go back to it.
Mhm.
Like I'm like nostalgic for a time that was realistically really terrible. But I think that is just like more of a factor of my personality and not necessarily a factor of life. Kind of like you go wherever you are.
Mhm. Yeah, you go wherever you are and you make the most of it, and I don't know, you see everything in the past with even if it was not the best, sometimes through like rose tinted glasses, and like you only remember the good parts, and you don't really you kind of forget about all the bad pieces.
Yeah, I tend to do the same with, Luke and I will talk about like, oh, we wish we'd, college days, we wish we did more podcasts and like maybe like, oh, it was so fun living together. But then I'm like, there also were some downsides to being broke college kids living in Bloomington. Like, yeah, it's not. We had a lot of good times, but also
Yeah,
like most of the time, like you said, most of the time, not much going on. We don't have the money to be able to do anything else, so
yeah. I
you kind of
remember like
forget about those.
our treat for like the week would like after a workout like on a Friday we'd go to Arby's and we would like do it like a 2 for 6 deal, and that was the highlight of our week. We would go to jujitsu, we'd be done with jujitsu, or we would finish with a workout and we would have a $6 meal and we thought we were kings.
But I feel like there is something weird about, and Nicole, I guess I kind of got a question for you too. Like, I don't know if it's a product of like Luke, obviously, I think you're from the smallest like area out of the three of us.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
think me and you are somewhat similar in the way of like I like places where there's things to do, right? So like I took a weekend trip to New York if like 2 or 3 years back, and like it's fun to do that for a little bit. But I think in general, I'm like I just don't like I one is I can't be around people, like just big crowds. But two, also I don't really need that much to do. I think I like part of it was growing up in high school, like the fun thing to do was, and Luke has seen this, so he can attest. You go with some friends and you walk around Target, and then you walk around Target for an hour. You don't buy anything, and then maybe you hang out at a parking garage, and that's the night. So, like, Nicole, do you feel like since you said you feel like you need those things to do you feel like that's something you just like kind of grew up around, like being around Chicago, or is it just I don't know something, or just grass is greener kind of thing?
It's like I don't know Chicago as well as I know New York. Like when I go to Chicago or somebody says a neighborhood, I have no idea what they're talking about. Because even though I live like maybe 30 to 40 minutes outside the city, I never really went. Um, and the fact that I live in New York, I honestly would say is like more like divine intervention than anything else. Because I really did consider Chicago for a long time and I had a lot of reasons to stay. It just didn't work out that way. Now, though, that I've got like a taste of the city, yeah, I guess I am somebody who is like, if I'm too bored, I will get restless and I will go crazy. Like I need things to do, I need goals, like I just always need to be stimulated somehow. So without that, like I'm like, okay, I could live somewhere else, but I'd go insane. Or I can live in New York and be exhausted. But it's kind of like a nice exhaustion because it's like fruitful in a way. Like my question to you guys is like, what do you do where you live? I just can't imagine living somewhere where like I'm not constantly.
I mean, I've always so even though I did say Luke is from a smaller area, and that like I think there was probably less going on where you were even than where I'm from. Um, I think Luke has always been more outgoing and more willing to do things. So for me, I'm like, hey, I went out twice this week with some friends and we played a board game or we like went to dinner. And like for me, I'm like, that's me going out of my shell. That's me. That's a good week for me. Just because I think I agree in the same way. Like I don't like having nothing to do, right? Like I realized, for example, last week I was like on house hunting, so I basically didn't go into work. And I realized I was like, I just sat there and doom scrolled and did nothing for an entire week. And I like on the surface, I think I'm okay with it, but at a deeper level, when I start looking at it, I'm like, oh, actually, I hate this, and like this is my body responding to something I don't like doing. So I agree that like I'm not built for. I don't think any of us are built to be just bored. I don't think that's our natural state, but I think that I'm more used to it, more accustomed to it. That to me, like going out for Arby's for a 2 for 6 is like a reward, right? So like that to me, those are more. It's novel enough. I think the day-to-day monotony goes by, and then on the weekend I do one or two things. So like making those one or two things novel to me feels like enough of a change. But I do agree. Like I also have I've got this was on the deleted podcast last week, so no one else has heard about this. But like I've had thoughts of going out to Asia or big cities or things like that. Like I do like exploring, but I think I'm more comfortable being bored, um, on the surface at least. I don't know if you feel around the same or
Yeah, I don't know. Like when you come from like a small town, in my perspective, just to give you a little bit of background, I just graduated from grad school like what 4 months ago now, and so I've always had like people around me to do things with. So like even though like I was in Bloomington for a little bit, and then I graduated and went to like a smaller grad program, there were always just like people around you doing very similar things. So it was like very easy to like make friends and hang out with those friends. And even if we weren't particularly like doing anything like that interesting, whether it just be like board games, playing a movie, watching a movie, playing video games, going on a walk, going to like a lake or something like that, there was always just like I don't know. I've always found my fun with people, and it didn't really matter what we were doing or how we were doing it, as long as I was just around a good group of people. That's kind of how I like filled most of my time. And if there happened to be like a cool event that we were doing, cool, awesome, made it even better. But like I was just as fulfilled, just hanging around the same people doing nothing. And maybe that's like a testament to just like I grew up more in the country, so there's just not as many things to do. Like Indianapolis was over an hour away, and Chicago was over 3 hours away. So you just had to learn to make do with what you had around you.
I feel like
The
it's also.
friends
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the friends thing is interesting because I was wondering that too. Like, how do you guys have friends where you're at? Luke, it does sound like you do. David, it sounds like you do as well, actually.
You literally just said it sounds like only two of us out of the three of us have friends.
We
Um,
don't know that I do. I haven't
Yeah,
confirmed.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like I've had friends at like whatever segment of life that I'm in. I've always had like certain friend groups. So like when I was in high school, I've got like all my high school friends. And in undergrad, I had my undergrad friends. In grad school, I had like my grad school friends. And now that I'm kind of transitioning out of grad school into like a more normal job, and I'm not seeing the same people that I'm used to seeing every single day, like I still keep in contact with all of these people, but I'm not seeing them like on a day-to-day basis or week to week or month to month. Um, so I'm kind of like in this weird stage where like a lot of my friends are all over the country right now. And I'm just trying to figure out like, okay, what are some friend groups that are gonna like stay together and like what people I want to like keep in my life for like the long term. Um, so I don't know. I'm just like in a weird transition phase right now.
I think in contrast to you, I think I've almost reverted a little bit. I've noticed that in the past, probably I'd say probably past year, but especially the past few months since I got back from deployment, I've almost reverted back to like a college kind of friend group, right? So it's like I'm still living with roommates, so I've got one of my buddies that I live with was a guy from work, and then another one, we were on deployment for the whole 7 months. So I do have like that close group, and it's kind of the same way of like I have different friends for different periods of life. So I've got like certain areas I was like while in the Navy, met some people there, and then same thing, everyone's off, not just across the country. People are in Japan, Korea, everything. So it is a lot harder, I think, to one of the big gripes I have with the military is that yes, you meet a lot of people, but also like in 2 years, you will likely never see 90% of those people ever again. Um, so it does make it more difficult, I think, to like go out and want to make those relationships. But I have found it also maturing the last few months. I'm like, all right, I do need social interaction. I do need to be hanging out with my roommate and my buddies like a little bit more, and like at least even if it's playing a card game or playing or like watching a movie or something. I've been that's something I've been trying to work on. Like I said, I'm like I was a good boy if I went out for dinner and hung out with people twice this week. Like that's a that's an achievement for me. Um, but I think it'll be I think I'm still stuck in that college mindset, and I think I will be, going off to law school, probably be the same thing. Um, I don't know if I'll I don't know when I'll grow out of it. Maybe when I'm 29 and graduate law school, then I'll have to figure out how to be an adult and live with myself and actually do activities. But I've always been like Luke said, kind of the same way where it doesn't really matter what we're doing. I mean, in high school, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're walking around Target or hanging around a parking garage or sitting in a basement, but you're with the right people. So I do have a struggle with like people, for example, who are more used to. Well, I'm not saying you're this kind of person, but some people, for example, who I feel like have a higher level of the activity requirement. So, we'll be hanging out with some people. Some of my buddies are very content to just watch a show here, right? Like we'll just sit down on the couch in our living room, watch watch a show for 2 hours, and then we're like, that was our social interaction. Pretty good. We're both happy with that. But at the same time, I'll meet some people and I'm like, hey, like, like we should hang out or something. Like my me meaning like, hey, we should go grab dinner or like grab a coffee or something. And they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, like let's do this event or like let's find some weekend long like festival to go to. I'm like, all right, like that's a little too much commitment on my end, like from an energy standpoint. So it is hard for me to, I think, relate to that kind of person who like needs more activity to their social interaction.
I have had the same problem with my friend, except I'm the friend proposing the like weekend long getaway. So all my college friends live in New York. Like that's what's really nice is I've not had to make a single new friend, but a lot of them are really tired. And I'm like, well, like I could be tired too, but then I wouldn't be happy. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to force myself to do things. But it's forced me to like go out and make new friends, which is atrociously difficult, even in like a big city like New York. Um, so I end up doing a bunch of these activities with people like some of them I might even see repeatedly, but they're never really friends. It's just kind of like, hey, I'm doing these activities with random strangers, sometimes repeatedly.
I feel like it'd almost be harder to make friends in a place not saturated because in a place like the Indianapolis suburbs, like where Luke and I'm from, like there's nothing going on, right? Like you run into someone on the street, you guys are both taking a walk with your friend groups, you guys end up hitting it off because like hey, we both happen to be going to Steak and Shake and that's a highlight of our night. Right? Like so like that's whereas like in New York, my imagination and from what it sounds like you're saying, it's like, hey, I've got 100 things planned this week, and they're all with different groups. So like, I don't really have the time to like have formalities. Like, I'm just trying to do my improv. I'm just trying to learn Italian right now. Like, you're not my priority to to be friends with, I guess. That'd be kind of my guess.
And I've noticed some of the interactions with like people from like small towns or like from Indiana. If you have like 2 to 3 conversations with them like ever, they just immediately become your friend. Like you'll go on a walk, you'll see the same people going on the walk like 2 or 3 days in a row, and then you'll chit chat with them. You might make plans, you might get their number, you might just like plan to like walk there every day. It's kind of like insane because there's not that many people like in comparison to New York. You're seeing thousands, potentially thousands of different people every single day that just pass you by. You'll never remember them. They'll never remember you, and it's very like I don't know, like transitory.
The anonymity of it all is really nice, but like I live the same day, I think more often than not. It's literally the same day on repeat. It's funny that you bring up like the Midwestern friend people thing because I think I still have that. There's a lady on my walks in the morning. I after the gym I go for a walk by the water every morning and she's always walking her blonde dachshund. It's like a blonde dog. And I like always see this lady, and in my head I'm like, we should speak to each other. Like I see you all the time. I don't know if she like recognizes me, but I've seen her so many times that I do. But people are like, I mean, it's also people here are so scared of one another to some extent.
Mhm,
I don't think that's really what deters people from making friends, but like you really have no idea who you're talking to sometimes. The one
mhm,
thing that this city is good for is like chaos and like you could meet the wrong person just by wanting to have a friendly conversation, which like
mhm.
yeah. So, I wish they were that friendly though. I think that would be nice. Probably make the city a little bit of a better place.
Yeah. But it's also just hard to be that friendly with so many people. Like being friendly and being nice all the time is such it take there's such like an emotional weight to it where it's almost like unexpected for people just to be nice all the time. It's much easier just to be cold like just be cold and like just try to get to where you're going, don't talk to anybody, don't say anything. Um because it takes a decent amount of emotional energy to like talk to somebody and sit there and stand there and talk to them for a couple minutes.
I do think, obviously not to the level you've experienced, Nicole, but like I do think I have had some of that experience of like the draining and also the fear of running to the wrong person because I've seen just enough. I'd say in general the level of crazy in Virginia is significantly higher than it was in Indiana. So like, I'll hear people talking and I'm like, they're talking too much crazy. Like I don't want to be part of that. So it's the same thing with like I've noticed I'm still decently friendly, like in places where I'm comfortable, like the gym, right? But back home, I'd see someone in the gym for the second time, and I'd be like, all right, like we're friends now, we're gym bros now, like we chat and we hang out. Like here, it's like it. I don't think I've actually actively approached someone and been like in the mindset of like, hey, like I want to be friends, right? Honestly, I think it's risk mitigation. I usually go up to people, I'm like, hey, like, I like your shirt. 'Cause I'm like, I feel like they look mean, and like if something happens, I like at least they were like, that was the guy who liked my shirt that one time. Like, I'm not gonna go crazy on this guy. So I do feel like in some ways, I'm like, okay, I do understand like the big city-ish mindset of it's too much of a risk to invest your time and like talk to this person because if they're crazy, then now you're the guy they remember on the street. So
I also think I wonder if it's like age. Like you mentioned gym friends, like I'm friends with the workers. And I think that it's more like because I actually say good morning to them. So like we've already broken that barrier. And then like my only other really friend maybe at the gym that I can speak to is like a 60-year-old lady. Like nobody my age talks to each other. And even when
Wow.
I was taking Italian, I was actually the youngest person there, which surprised me. But I remember like walking into class and not being on my phone. And like there was a guy named Daniel in my class who was just like, hey, Daniel. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Like we weren't taking Italian for the last 6 weeks together. I was like, never mind. I'm not gonna strike up a conversation right now, I guess.
Yeah, you like scared him. You scared him off of his phone. He's just like, oh,
He looked
somebody's talking to
shocked
me.
that I like
Yeah.
spoke to him.
do you feel like because like we've been saying that in the big city you're kind of focused on kind of go go go, especially like more type A. Like, do you feel more attached like with that anonymity? Like people are more like, hey, like I'm looking at my phone, I'm on my weather app, like don't talk to me. 'Cause I feel like that's a joke that people have of you know, our generation in general, but I would have imagined that, a big city, I guess part of it's seeing like influencers post videos about it, right? So they're purposely interacting with people and trying to interview people on the street. Like, do you think just the average person living in a big city, you think there's just like they just shut themselves off more in a way?
I think people are just really scared. I like I'm not tooting my own horn here or anything, but I don't feel like the experience that I'm having in New York is necessarily average because I'm actually going out and doing a lot. But when I look at the demographics of other people who are doing it, they're not like people I would normally hang out with. Like people, these are like it's a very specific kind of person, but it's definitely not like your regular Joe. Um, and when it comes to like the influencer life, I think a lot of people move here thinking it's like that, and then you realize it's not at all, and like somebody lied to you. Um, oh my goodness, wait, where are we going with this? But I like had a point and then I missed the point. So we were talking about the influencer, the New York living.
It's like in general, do you feel like there's almost less interaction with the more people? Like you were saying, it's kind of a fear thing, but like, do you
Mm,
feel more detached from the populace?
I try not to be only because I know it's really easy to be. Like, I've definitely been rude to people in public and like I will body somebody on the on the subway if I have to. Like at some point it's just like every man for himself, but I really try not to be only because like I feel like it makes the world a worse place and I don't want to add to that. But it is really hard to be nice to everyone. Um and I've heard like stories of people being nice in New York where it actually backfired on them. Again, there's actually an incentive not to be nice because it might backfire on you.
Mhm.
But I also think that is partially maybe a stereotype that comes from the way New York is portrayed because the people that I've met that are actual New Yorkers that live here that grew up here are way more likely to talk to you and they might not be polite but they will always be kind.
Mhm.
It's like the people that move here from somewhere else like I don't know if this is language that they use in other cities but like you will be called a transplant. You need to live in New York for like 10 years before you can call yourself a New Yorker. They're very strict on these things. And like, I would never dare call myself a New Yorker. Like, I'll be like, yes, I'm a transplant. But I respect the New York way of living and I respect the communities. It's not like me trying to move to the West Village and then move out in a year.
Mhm.
Almost feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like people who move there are like, all right, New Yorkers are assholes. I have to like match up to that. Otherwise, they're gonna notice I don't fit in. So now I'm gonna be an asshole to match the energy, almost in a way.
This is the biggest city for keeping up with the Joneses. Like, I think you get an extreme amount of street cred in New York for being original because it does have a history of being like a very artsy city. But you also have a lot of people here that are not original or have never really tried anything new and it's just like a question of keeping up with like the money or the looks or like whatever is deemed cool at the moment. Get a lot of that too.
Sounds exhausting.
I don't participate. Like and
Yeah.
it's hard sometimes because I look around and I'm like, how is everyone either richer than me or not in debt? Like
Mhm.
I feel so broke. How is everyone else not broke? But then it's those unspoken conversations of like people are in crazy amounts of credit card debt that nobody
Mhm.
talks about, or people have really rich parents.
I feel like that is the difference. Something I've been insulated from as a culture. I mean, I've talked to Luke about this, and it's generally known about like um there's no really fronting about like, oh, I have this much money, like I'm doing this well. Because like for example, my position in the military, I can look you up and know exactly how much you make to the cent. But like I know exactly if you're rich or not. And so I've never really dealt with like the issue of um people trying to flex or people trying to show off as much. Even though and I think that's why I've always been like I've joked about with you, for example, about like being a gym influencer, like living the influencer life, being a big shot famous person. But at the same time, I'm like, I just think I'm so detached from, and I haven't had any experience with like the portraying this image. I mean, even on this podcast, like Luke and I are very comfortable with destroying our own images for the public to see. So, so I don't think we have any like uh, media training in any way, very clearly. So I do feel like, yeah, it would be something that just that's probably what it is too. Like my issue with, I've got buddies who are from New York. I've got buddies from like big cities, and they'll have this certain thing of like, oh, like you gotta dress like this, man. Like you gotta portray yourself into this. Like you're doing the wrong thing. I'm like, it's comfy. I like this shirt, and they're like, no, like it's you can't do that. And I do feel like that image management is super exhausting part that a lot of people don't mesh with. And I think that's why I'm just not a big city person, is that I don't have that desire to like fit in that way. Like not from like a, oh, I'm a Sigma male, like I just don't fit in kind of thing, but it's just not a strong motivator. And I think like Luke probably you'd probably agree in a sense.
Well, but yeah, I do agree, but I will say, Dave, the friends that call you out for not like looking a certain way, It's because we'll be going out somewhere like kind of nice, or we'll be going somewhere public, and you're wearing like sweatpants and then like a gym t-shirt, and then you may or may not have like your gun just like attached to your hip. It's like, Dave, you can't, you can't walk around public like this. You're gonna scare everybody.
Okay, so fair. Um, I don't have a rebuttal at all. Like that's fair. I've tried to grow, and Luke called me out on my BS just now. So point taken.
I had a similar experience recently, but kind of I will say New York clothes-wise might not be the place for you. Like there's definitely a higher standard of dressing here. I think it's necessarily like more expensive, but like you would be more dressed up for the average event than you would any other city. So I'm used to like the overdressing thing, and I was meeting up with people from New Jersey that I was meeting for the second time, like us going out as a group. Um, and I was like, "Oh, like what are you guys wearing?" Always ask the question, "What are you wearing?" Because sometimes in New York, like that will make or break the experience and of how people treat you is like, do you look put together? And I'm wearing like heels, like a mini skirt, a nice top. We're just going like to a regular bar outing. And they show up in like a sweater and jeans. I'm like, okay, we didn't coordinate correctly.
Overdressed,
That's okay.
like
I
overdressed.
was like, okay, I'm like, I think dressed perfectly for the occasion. But even like across the water in New Jersey, like nobody's doing that.
Yeah,
Think the first experience that I had with that was when we went to the formal BGN formal in Nashville, and I didn't get called out for it, but Jacob Kahn kicked out for what was he wearing? Shorts?
he was
It
wearing
was like
jorts.
was it jorts?
He was wearing jorts.
Like to me it was such a wild like to me I'm like I was looking at him like I feel like he's better dressed than me. I think I was wearing shorts. Like I'm pretty sure I was like
No,
in
you
joggers.
were wearing joggers.
I was in like joggers or something. I was like, I look like I just came out of the gym or I'm about to go. Like to me, I'm like, he looks more put together. But like, I just have no frame of reference for that stuff. Like I, I literally told my New York buddy when we were in Rhode Island, I was like, dude, like I'm going out. Like we can go to the store and just pick whatever outfit you want me to wear. I'll buy it. I was like, I don't care like what the cost is. Just pick it out for me because I have no frame of reference for being presentable. And so I think I would absolutely drown in a city like New York.
Yeah, Dave, you just need to go to like H&M and just get like a week's worth of just like different clothes than what you normally wear, and that'll probably get you through, I don't know, at least a couple years.
Well, that was the problem was that I mean, Luke, you knew me when in college. I remember there was an H&M at the Bloomington Mall, and I was like, "Oh wow, like $7 shirts? Like I can do that." So I would only wear like $7, like definitely a size like two sizes too small for me, like H&M shirts. And I remember thinking like, "Okay, I've bought these new clothes. Like I'm sure I look nice in them." I didn't. I didn't. Or I'd be like, "This tank is really nice. I just spent money on it," and think that made it suitable to go out in. And I just think I'm coming around to it. I think now, like whenever I go out, I wear pants now. I wear like nice little like pants. Luke says they scream that I'm military, but I'm like I try to dress up a little bit, but it's
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're tactical pants,
yeah, but like they're cool. They're tactical cool pants. I like them.
and they are nice quality, and they're probably kind of expensive, and they do look really cool. But like you do, it does just scream military. It screams, "I'm a military man."
That's I'm that's my goal is just to make that my personality. I'm gonna stand for 4 years and then make the military my entire personality when I get out.
There you go.
So
You better get all kinds of hats, all kinds of shirts. Better say Navy veteran on it.
I'm gonna get a vanity plate and everything. That's another thing I can't do. Vanity plates and like anything like that. I'm like I just can't. I can't understand the desire to be like known. Like, I never want to be like driving somewhere. Also because like maybe I'm not the nicest driver sometimes. I don't need people to know who I am and where I live based on my plate. That's why I keep my online presence also like somewhat tamped down. I talk way too much shit for people to know who I am. It's just not worth the risk.
Yeah.
think it depends on the plate. I like a fun little plate. Like if I see a vanity plate, I will take a picture of that person's car. So like, and maybe if you don't want your car on the internet or like being sent to random people, probably not a great idea. My mom though, she's a vanity plate owner. So I used to drive around a car in high school with a vanity plate and everyone knew it was me, even though it wasn't like my choice to have it on there. I'd be like, I
What
can't
was the
hide.
what was the vanity plate?
It was so the other layer of this is like my mom is a foreign Eastern European lady, and her name is Agnieszka, which is like just a really Eastern European name. And so it was her nickname, which is it just said Agus, Agus. And like unless you're Polish or know her, it made no sense. So people would always be like, "Why do you have a plate that says Agus? Like, what is that?" And then I would always have to explain.
I feel like the only excuse for vanity plate, like I feel like you could make that funny though. Like you make it into an acronym or something. Like if I agree. Like if it's a funny vanity, I've seen some really funny ones. And I do agree. I've taken pictures of them. Uh, but like some people, like I see people out here with like just their last name on a vanity plate. I'm like, dude, like who do you think you are? Like
Yeah,
you maybe played in a band in middle school, right? There's no presence to your last name. I don't really understand that. But like
yeah.
Agus, I
And
think you can make funny.
it's always funny when they have like the name on the car and they're driving like a 1990 Grand Prix, a car that probably like would sell for like $20.
I feel like I should have made up a lie about that plate now. Now I'm having like a moment of regret. I'm like, oh, that could have been such a funny bit.
That's
Yeah,
like the biggest regret I think I have. Luke was joking about, and we can still pursue it if you guys are open. Luke was like, "Oh, like we should do improv since Nicola's like into improv." I was like, "My issue is like I think I can be decently funny if like I have time to prepare, right? Like I think I could actually do okay if you gave me like if you're like, hey, in a week you have a stand-up routine, you have to put something together. I think I could put together like 15 minutes of material, right? But like off off cuff, I especially at work, right? Than like a military culture, there's a big expectation of like when someone makes a joke, you need to have some witty comeback. Like you need to make sure it's not just a like as a pride thing or like an image thing. It's more just like, hey, we respect you if you're like funny, if you can say something witty in the moment. Um, and I think I can say something, but it's never like witty, like interesting or intelligent. Like it's just enough to be like, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't they're like everyone's reaction was like,
Oh,
that was kind of weird, but like it was weird enough to where like I don't really want to make fun of him for it. I just don't really understand what he just said. So I
yeah.
have trouble with like off the cuff funniness.
So you say that, Dave, but you have like one of the I don't know, in my opinion, one of the funniest off the cuff like riff things that I've ever witnessed ever when during COVID. It was a like a PGN event and we were playing Among Us and you straight up just and you straight up gaslit everybody that was playing. Like you just had a like an on the spot like lie and you had like a story ready to go.
Well, I don't know if you knew that was the reason I stopped interacting with PGN as much. By the way, I don't know if for anyone listening, if there are any other PGN, we all made sure they're PGN. Um, so Luke was a little more involved, but like in general, I think you remember our group, like me, Luke, Hughes, Con, like Sean,
mhm.
none of us are super involved. We were kind of the guys that like would say something in a chat and then like people would kind of be like, "Hey, that was inappropriate," and then you would never hear from us for the next 2 months. Um, but like the culminating point was yeah, when we played Among Us, I played with I want to say it was your class, some of the people in your class, and like that was the first interaction I'd had with them, and they were like, "Oh, like you should play with us, like you're a gamer, right?" And like I was like the killer or the imposter or whatever, and I straight up lied to like all 7 people and won the game. And I noticed like a tone shift of like, hey, like I don't think this guy's a good person. And so I was like, I can read the room. I'm gonna leave you guys alone now. I'm never gonna interact with you guys again because it's like talking to someone in New York. It's like, okay, I think I've talked to this guy, and now I realize like I shouldn't have interacted with him. That
Yeah.
was a bad move.
To like frame it even better, like in the game, he was caught. He was guilty. There was like I don't know how many witnesses, like 3 or 4 people that caught him, and then he was able to improv or lie his way out, and he gaslit everybody that like saw him, and he made them believe that it wasn't him that did it. There were eyewitnesses. Everybody like saw what happened, and then just through like the quick wittedness of your tongue, and you were able to like escape it. It was one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen.
Anything for the win. I
Yeah,
don't know who was. I remember playing that game, but I wish I knew who you played with. I think it would just give me like better context because then I can actually imagine.
I Sam.
Sam, yeah.
Yeah,
So the reason why I remember Sam Lavely,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the reason why he's the only one I remember playing with because he was the one I pinned the blame on. I guess let all seven people.
That's
I was like,
hilarious.
that's him. He did it. Like I was like, guys, you got to believe me. I swear, right? Like it's Sam, and they killed him. And then I don't think he ever talked to me after that either. I think like he was the one who was like, yeah. I think my reputation was a little tarnished after that. But
Oh.
It's fine. Anything for the win.
I actually saw him in December, and he went to a bar dressed up as Santa, and we had a beer. But yeah, you did not come up. I think maybe he still took that person.
maybe a repressed memory. Like, oh yeah, that guy's an asshole.
But with the improv thing, it's funny because like you brought up how you gaslit him. The like number one rule of improv is like you just have to say yes to everything. Like you can't deny anything. But that's like advanced improv, I guess. Like 201 is when you can start telling people no. But 101, like we were not allowed to deny anything. Could have been like there were only two things that were off limits, which like for the purposes of this podcast, maybe I like, won't say it. But for the most part, it's like, yep, whatever you say, that's what I am.
Now I kind of want to know what those two things were.
Yeah,
If
for the
you're
sake of the
comfortable,
Um,
podcast, we've talked about worse things on the podcast.
if
It's
you're
fine.
comfortable with saying it,
um,
we're
Yeah, we've ruined our
would it
reputation, so it's up to you to ruin yours.
Oh god, but obviously, like, nothing, like you couldn't be, like, racist or homophobic, like, any you had to avoid your
Yeah,
isms, is what I'll
yeah.
say, and then the second one is you couldn't make anyone be a sex worker. Like, so you couldn't pretend that you or anyone else was, like, a stripper or anything like that. Those were the off limits things. We did have a moment, though, like, we were doing a scene, and we all like, me and this group were pretending to be a group of experts on, like, aioli, and we had created this aioli out of batteries that gave a bunch of kids cancer. And at the end of that scene, our teacher was like, like I know that technically wasn't off limits, but like let's maybe we shouldn't have done that one. I was like,
Yeah,
that's pretty fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe joking about kids with cancer might be the line, but you might have found the
Yeah,
line.
yeah, that's what he said. That's it is really interesting to see where someone's brain will take you when you have no rule. That's I think the really interesting part of it.
is that would you say that's like your kind of favorite part of improv, or what's your like what's your big driving factor for that as a hobby?
So I actually lost a bet and I had to do it. So I had made like this friend in New York. It was like a 4 month friendship. We literally no longer talk. As soon as I started my classes, I was like, great, like I'm just doing this by myself. Um, and I was like, that seems really scary, and it seems like it kind of sucks. We made a bet. I lost the bet. I had to sign up and do it, and it was 3 hours every Sunday. So it
Oh
was
my
like a time
gosh.
commitment. It was like
Yeah.
8 weeks long. I had to do a show at the end in front of an audience. Um, But in hindsight, like, I would recommend it to everyone, and I think there's a lot that you can get out of it depending on what you're looking for. I think it made me a better person, honestly, because a lot of it is, like, interpersonal skills.
I'm joking about kids with
But
cancer.
yeah, yeah, that one wasn't me, it was a British guy in my class. I just couldn't say no, you know? I was like, but it's also, like I feel like a lot of people will not do things that are uncomfortable. And when you're in an improv setting, like you're never doing the same thing twice. And if you're somebody that like is a perfectionist, you're just gonna have to sit there and accept that you suck. Like I felt like I was getting shot my first class when I had to like introduce myself. I had to sing in a circle, a cappella. It was like no business presentation I think that I could give now would ever be as scary as Improv 101.
Luke, you interested in doing it at some point?
Dude, I'm so down.
I
You
I'm
should
so
absolutely.
down.
I
Yeah.
think the problem is like so I think the only experience I've had at all with like just my own public humiliation was in business law. Um like sophomore year or something. I had to the professor, it was like a class of like 80 people, and the professor was like, hey, like I'll give $20 to the first person who comes up here and sings a song. And there's a video of me somewhere singing like "Party in the USA" in front of the class, and like I remember like not thinking that was that bad. I was like, "Oh, it's not bad. It's kind of funny." And like I think as I've grown older, I'm like, I hate that I did that. Like I can't bear the fact that that's like something I've done. Um, it's like a shameful thing for me. But I think that like while I think that I'm pretty good at like I'm good at like presentations, you know, like military, I do like briefs or whatever. So like I'm used to that. I think the idea of like having to entertain people, because me, I was just a, a guy singing Miley Cyrus really poorly. But like the idea of like, hey, I'm doing improv like for an audience. Same thing with like stand up. Like I have to entertain you. You guys came here to be entertained. I think that would rattle me. Like I don't know if I could even as like confident as I am in like my speaking skills. I think thinking up something funny on the spot and off of someone else's recommendation is just not something that I'm I think I'd be very good at all.
I don't think you have to be funny. Like, I honestly, like, don't for 1 second believe that I was funny. We had, like, actual comedians in that class, I was just there. Um, I think the humor of it just comes from whatever you say, because it's always so ridiculous that it's hard not to laugh.
Mm,
But
that
I
makes
don't think
sense.
any of it is, like, inherently funny. Um, the only way that I think it could be not funny is if you're panicking, which I've seen. Like, I'm like, "Let's take a breath. If we calm down, this could be really funny, but I can tell you're very scared." And I think
Mhm.
that usually makes the audience scared as well, but as long as, like, you're chill. The way my teacher put it, and I absolutely agree with this, is like, nobody cares because everyone just admires that you have enough balls to do it. It's the same thing with, like, singing and improv. If you mention singing at all, if you're in a band scene or you say something about being a singer, you have to sing. It's like one of the rules. You have to commit 100% to the bit, and they're gonna wanna hear you sing, and nobody cares if you're good because nobody in the audience is up there singing.
Dave, get ready to start singing Miley Cyrus again.
See,
Oh, yeah.
it's weird though because like I'm comfortable singing karaoke, right? Like I love karaoke. I'm very comfortable like in front of even an audience. Like it's fun to like perform a little bit. But for some reason, as soon as you like, I got chills as soon as you were like, "Oh, you have to sing during improv." Like that is felt different to me. I literally got like chills thinking about doing that. Like I don't usually get nervous thinking about that. Like if you were like, "Hey, you have to sing in front of 100 people," I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like fine, I'll find some fun song people can get along. But like if you're like, "Hey, part of this bit, you're a singer in band, and now you have to sing," like that terrifies me. It's like down to my core.
Is it because there's liquor involved in karaoke, or do you do karaoke sober? Some people
Uh,
do, I guess.
I so I don't really drink anymore, but like last time we did it on deployment, and like we were at it was this little bar, like maybe like 15, 20 people. And I remember thinking, I was like this was me not really drinking. I was like, I should probably have a few drinks like before, like even me, very comfortable doing stuff sober. I was like, I need a little bit of that. So yeah, doing improv stone cold sober, I think would be an issue for me.
Were all of the people sober while doing improv?
I wasn't.
Okay.
I don't know about anyone. No, I actually, like, I was sober for all my classes. I have never performed on a stage. So I actually did take 2 shots. I have a 2-shot rule in my life where, like, if I'm going to do something that makes me nervous, or, like, I don't know if I'll be able to perform under pressure sober, I get to have, like, 2 free shots, and that's
Gosh.
usually what takes the edge off.
I'm just thinking of you like right now before like a business meeting and you're like kind of nervous to give a presentation and you have to like run to the bathroom to sneak 2 shots before your presentation. Like that
You know,
bit's just kind of like running in my mind.
I've never thought about that, but I don't think that's a terrible idea. Like, if my boss
No.
ever hears this, I would never,
Yeah.
but, like, I get nervous during those presentations. I'm like, "That's actually kind of a good idea."
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing them
The only con is
because
I work with numbers
So
because I
again,
don't get.
what was that?
Oh, I work with numbers, like,
Oh,
as long as I'm not getting things confused. I think 2 shots, I'd be fine.
I think you'd be fine. As if you had like a PowerPoint presentation and then you had like the numbers just
Yeah.
big and bolded, as long as you can say the number that you're trying to say, I think you'd be okay.
and also you're remote, right? So like you you can have like a water like a college water bottle full of water and like be fine, I think, on a Zoom call.
You know, in college, I used to have this rule, which I should bring back, but admittedly, I don't really drink these days anymore either. When I was out at the bars, my test of drunkenness would be like, can I still do derivatives in the state I'm in? And as long as I could do them, I was not drunk enough.
That's awesome.
And that was always a fun one. I'm trying to bring it back, but a lot of people forgot how to do them, me included. So I have to find a new test.
Yeah. It's
I
funny
forgot.
that like in college, I feel like there was always like rules or like things that you would have to do before like going out drinking or like while you were drinking. So like you mentioned that you had to like drink to a certain point where you could do derivatives. My rule was that like to compensate for the caloric intake that I was drinking like that I was drinking while consuming alcohol, I would have to like run a mile for every drink that I had. So for like at the beginning of the week, I would just be like, okay, I ran 12 miles this week. I can have 12 drinks this weekend. I
Luke
think
and I
that's just
would
kind of
would both do that. Like I think we had some instances like boys' night or like different PGN events where we'd be like, all right, like we gotta hit a go to workout this morning because we're gonna get plastered in the next 12 hours, and like we need to make sure that like it balances out, right? Like the liver damage is balanced out by a 30-minute workout, I think.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Like college logic. Now I'll do a workout in the morning and I'll go like heavily drink and I'm like, I don't know why I did that workout. I do say
Yeah.
though, like now I'll eat less. I'd be like, oh, I'm about to consume like 500 calories worth of drink, so I can't have dinner. Because that my dinner is the 5 vodka Red Bulls I'm about to down.
Yeah. You're drinking your calories that night.
Yeah.
so Nicole, did you have any I know I said no pressure on bringing topics. Did you have any topics you want to discuss? Luke, while you're disconnected, she said she did some research on our podcast. I don't know if it was through Chat GPT, like Luke was talking about, or if you actually did your homework.
No,
But
no, I was listening to your guys' podcast at Trader Joe's this morning. It's
Oh
like
no.
catching up because I didn't want to do a topic that's been repeated, but I didn't get through all of the ones that I've missed in the past. So you may have discussed it. Um, I did actually. I was thinking of questions because I was like, this has happened to me before, where someone's like, "Hey, can you like come on this thing that we're doing? No pressure. Don't need to bring anything." I didn't bring anything, and there was pressure.
They're just like, yeah,
Um,
we need
it was
something.
so
We
bad.
need content.
um, so I was just like thinking of questions recently that I've been pondering. I love to do like a little philosopher's walk and think of questions. One that I've been thinking a lot recently, and that's like always been coming back in my mind, and I think you guys would like, is do you think consciousness is a spectrum? And if so, do you think some people are more conscious than others?
I guess I'll give my take since mine are usually the more extreme takes of the two. Um, so it makes for a good clip. Uh, I think so, right? Like I think at least because I've never thought about that in general. So that's a Luke and I have a habit of repeating the same questions over and over. So that's actually a new one. I'd say yes, like pretty much just instinctually. I think consciousness, my idea of consciousness, I think is like logical reasoning. Maybe that's wrong. Luke, I don't know if you would disagree that consciousness is tied to like logical reasoning. I think that some people just don't, and this is not to call anyone out. I have people in mind when I tell these stories. I definitely do. But like for example, like I'll talk to some people about hey, like what's going on in the world, or like hey, like politics, or usually conspiracy theories, right? I'm like, hey, like I think this is kind of weird. Like, do you think this is weird that this is happening or that this has happened before? And like it'll be people like, oh no, like I didn't see it on the news, so it's like you're probably wrong. Like I don't believe that. And inherently, I'm just like I don't think you're as like conscious as like a normal person, right? Like I think like the joke about people being NPCs, I think is there is truth to that. I think that like some people inherently just don't. It's kind of like you'll see some people. Maybe this is like an iPad baby thought. Like maybe I am just like phone addicted. I'll see someone like sitting there eating, right? and it's one thing to be like, I'm not like, oh, you need to be watching something or doing something as you're eating, but I'll see someone like eating, right, and like they're just staring at their food. I'm like, it's kind of weird, dude. Like you don't have like I feel like there's no thoughts going through your head. Like
Where's
you're
your
just
YouTube video?
like you're well, it'll be like it's one thing if like you know sometimes I'll be watching something or like sometimes I'll be like eating, but I'll be thinking about something, and I'll watch someone eat, and like I can tell the only thought going through their head is like matching the fork to their mouth,
You're like,
and I'm like
food.
I'm like, there's not much going on up there, is there? Like, it's not like it's not inherently like trying to make fun of them. It's just like that'll kind of shock me a little bit that like someone. It does feel like some individuals just don't have as much going on, and like I think I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think honestly, it's probably a nice thing to not have those constant worries and like have to feel like you're thinking about something, have to feel like you're progressing in some way. But I do think that inherently, some people just don't have that in their heads.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll kind of just like uh, take what you said and kind of continue on. There's like different like levels of consciousness that we all experience, right? So there's like times where we're like a little bit more sleepy or a little bit more awake, or times that we're actually asleep and dreaming. Those are like different levels of consciousness. Like we're not always like firing on all the same cylinders that we may consider normal. Um, and so like this idea of like I don't know wakefulness I think could kind of like apply to consciousness as well. Like there's just different spectrums that we see just throughout like our day-to-day lives and how much energy we have and how much we're willing to think at any particular point in time.
That's a good point. Let me rephrase it or like elaborate on it further because I
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that, Luke, and I agree with you, David, too. If I'm using the word consciousness as like a stand-in for like the word soul, like,
Oh,
do
okay.
you
Yeah.
think some people have like the same amount of soul in them as other people?
It's a good question. Um, I'll say this. Yeah, there's definitely like a difference, or at least some sort of variance between person to person. And you can see this in like clinical cases where people that are like psychotic or sociopathic they have like different levels of like emotional responses to the external stimuli that like come in and like what they receive. But if we are kind of like excluding those people and we only include the people that are like quote unquote normal, um, yeah, I think there are certain people that can like just feel more and experience more like in their life. I think it's just all a matter of how like how many like external stimuli are kind of like hitting their senses and then how they're responding to the environment around them and how they're like perceiving the info that's coming in.
Well, you kind of took my like sidebar. I was going to say like, oh, what if you have someone who's lobotomized and then they have less going on? But like, yeah, okay, like
Yeah,
those people. But I think like even if you were to take a case like that, right? Like you said, someone clinically who maybe doesn't take as much in or can't process as much. I think like you could argue that person has like a inherently a piece of their soul has been like taken away. Right? Like if you lobotomize someone and like they are no longer conscious, like capable of higher level thinking or of certain levels of thought, I think inherently like you have like not in like a oh like you have no soul you're going to hell kind of thing but like inherently you kind of are less alive in a way I think um and like I do think that some people who just don't have that um yeah I think like we can all agree like there's a certain level of capability that varies between person to person on just like perception and higher level thinking and I think that yeah like some people just don't have the same level right like I think also you can talk about like higher level concepts Luke kind of got me thinking about when he said like certain levels of whether when you're sleeping, certain levels of consciousness, right? This is just a random sidebar, but when someone tells me about like a dream they had, right? Like and like my dreams, like I have like a little dream journal. None of them make sense. Luke and I have read through our dream journals, and like all of mine are gibberish now to me. But like I'll be like I remember like some vivid, wild stuff, and someone will tell me about like the craziest dream they had last night, and like it's a story about like going to work and they weren't prepared. I'm like, wow, like there's just less going on up there. Like it just baseline, there's less going on up there, and I can't really perceive them as has the same level of consciousness and like being alive as the rest of us. It sounds mean, but yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think so, cause like, the logical part of it is really interesting, cause I always thought of it from, like, an emotional perspective whenever it's comes up in my own life, like, I'll get really sad about something, but then I'll notice, like, some people around me just don't feel it to the same extent, and I'm like, "Are we, like did we not go through the same event?" Um, but then I'm also like, maybe their capacity for, like, their highest high is also not like, that spectrum isn't as
Yours.
wide for them as it is for me.
Yep.
But it also makes me wonder, I think having more thoughts is good, just as, like, a general statement, and now I'm kinda
Mhm.
backtracking my own life where I'm like, are the people who are actually, like, less conscious, so to speak, than me having a better time?
I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
I
there's like
think they
the
are.
old saying where like ignorance is bliss. Yeah,
Right.
there's this thing where ignorance is bliss, and like, if you're just not as aware of your surroundings or the things going on in the world, people are generally more happy, and you can kind of see this with like the current like political spectrum and just like people that are chronically like always aware of what's going on in the world and like people that are always watching the news. People that are always watching the news are typically not as happy. They're typically a little bit more upset, whether that be like just with the going ons in the world or with the things just going on in their own life.
You think the world would be, like, a net better place, though, if we were all a little bit more unhappy and did something about it? Like, on an individual level, I think I totally agree with that, but, like,
Yeah,
somehow it still doesn't sit right with me that that
yeah.
would be the better of the 2.
I mean, I
So
think
like,
it's I guess just to go off your point, Luke, like you said like ignorance is bliss, and we've thrown that out a lot. It's fitting for our podcast, but like um I think that part of it's just like the human condition, right? Like part of the human condition is just to not be satisfied or just not be content. Like that's kind of why we survive, I think, in a way, or like why we grow and innovate and move on as a species. But I think like inherently, like the drive to grow, um, like you said, Nicole, like I think it does. That is what like improves the world is fixing those issues. Like you have to be able to see those issues, and seeing those issues, I do think just makes you unhappy. So I think that like it's kind of a depressing thing to say, but I think like for us to progress, we have to be unhappy. I think like that's to
yeah,
sum it up in a way.
yeah, it's like the idea versus like individual happiness versus group happiness. I feel like if you're more ignorant to the things that are going on in the world, you yourself will be more happy. But if you're more aware and you're kind of frustrated and you want it to change, you'll be more unhappy. But that unhappiness, like Dave was saying, will inspire change or inspire you or a group or your community to do something about said problem or said thing.
I'm, like, digesting that thought.
I mean, I think like while you digest, like it's kind of in the same way. Like all three of us have like categorized as like gym rats, right? I think like what I tell people when um I think it was like Mike Israetel who said it or something, but like some video about, hey, like how do I get motivated to improve my life? How do I get motivated to, better myself physically, mentally, all like spiritually, all this. And I think that like something I really that resonated with me that he said was like, I'm not gonna motivate you, right? Like because if you look in the mirror and you hate yourself, to put it bluntly, if you look in the mirror and you hate yourself, I'll see you in the gym. Right? Like so like it's there has to be that inherent I tell people I'm like now that I'm like kind of more established, like a little more experienced, I can kind of run off more positive emotions to kind of fuel myself a little bit. But like that initial drive to better myself, specifically in this case, like physically, was from like deep self-loathing. Like so, like I think that it's so tied that like you can't be. And Luke and I have had this conversation before about like people who are just like content, right? Like yes, I think they're more happy, but like, is that really a better state to be in? And I'd argue that as more conscious individuals who are kind of like you were saying about living in a big city, how you always want to be doing something and like feel like you're being productive and moving forward. I don't think that that comes with happiness. I think that inherently causes like the opposite, but at the same time, like the alternative is just ignorant bliss and kind of letting yourself just sink into the the waves. And yeah, I don't think that's the right alternative, even though we're all going to be depressed.
This this I'm kind of pivoting here a little bit, but the self-loathing thing is really interesting. Um, and I don't know, have you guys ever had a woman on the podcast? I feel like whenever I'm watching it, it's just you
No,
guys. So,
yeah,
like, I'm like, maybe this is the first time there's a woman. I think the self-loathing thing is, like, very inherently male, which is really interesting. Um, like, I don't think girls, you know, improve themselves through self-loathing. That's a very interesting perspective.
uh,
Um,
so it's a male
but
perspective.
no, it's actually, have you seen those, like, gym bro TikToks, like, where they, like, adopt stoicism, but only, like, halfway?
Or yeah,
You know
they
what I'm
adopt it completely like the wrong way. They're like the same guys that like just take a make a dose of like ashwagandha for like a year and then just have like zero emotion.
And then just hoodie in the gym and
Yeah,
sit
hoodie in the
there.
gym.
Yeah.
They have no process of like external stimuli. They're just kind of like just stone cold the entire time. Not happy, not sad.
That's part of why we wanted to bring you on. Also, why I said to Luke, I was like, right before we started, I was like, it'll be really interesting because outside of his mom, I don't think we've had any other women listen to this podcast. So I was like, it is interesting to like get because I think there's a lot of our thoughts on these topics, like one, like yeah, like the gym, the self-loathing, things like that. I think um that are so it's almost like not almost like we kind of are like each other from other self-improvement like Sigma Male, The Lion, all these like podcast kind of things, right? Um, so it is interesting that like, what would you say your experiences with seeing like motivation in women and like where that comes from for you?
Uh, that's a good one, actually. Um, so I think we probably ingest a lot of the same media, like, in terms of podcasts and what maybe that's why I like this podcast. I'm like, "This is something I would listen to." But it's definitely, like, not the way content is for women, where it's like, you can never hate yourself into love, or, like, you can never hate yourself into self-improvement. Um, so there's always this, like, you have to like yourself first before you can do anything. I'm actually way more pro on that side. I don't think you can hate yourself into a better version of yourself. Um, but I'm interested to see what you guys think. I think it's like a conversation that often isn't had between
Yeah.
like men and women in general is like that approach. And sometimes when I talk to like my female friends, or like I'll send them like a meme that's obviously not meant for women as like an audience, they're like, I don't get it. I'm like, never
Yeah.
mind.
I think that like going off that point, Luke, we'll have you speak after this one, but
Yeah.
so just to preface, like I always have to do with this guy. I'm not saying I support any of his other beliefs. Not saying that, he's been dragged recently fairly. Um, but like recently I reread 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson, and like one of the ones that like kind of resonates off of that was like treat yourself like someone you were responsible for taking care of, basically. I butchered that. But like so I do agree basically the entire thing's like, hey, we don't treat ourselves like we're worthy of care or treatment or of love, and we're way more willing to like take our dog to the vet than we are to take our own selves to the doctor, or like have our dog take this medicine when we won't even take our own prescriptions. So I do think that is a good point. Like I never really related it until you just mentioned it. Um, basically saying like you have to care for yourself at a base level, right? Because like if you just hate yourself, then obviously you're not going to care if you're uh, physically, mentally, everything just down in the gutters. So I do think there has to be a base level of like, hey, I believe in myself in a certain way, but I do think that um I think that like the belief you can be better is like the minimum. Like I do think you need that like, hey, I have this hope that I can achieve more. I have this hope that I can be more than I am. But I would say that just from my experience, the male experience, I would argue that like the self the, the hate talk or like the self kind of like deprecation is a very, not to say it's a good thing, but it's like I think it's an essential part of being
It's
a
powerful.
man. Like
It's
I think like
powerful. Yeah.
it's what makes a lot of men men, I think, in a way. Like I'm not, like I said, I don't think it's a good thing, but I think like a lot of the greatest men, specifically that like, philosophers or athletes or whatever, like I feel like a lot of them would probably say that, yeah, I just thought I wasn't enough and I just thought I was lacking and that's why I improved myself. Right. So I don't know if like you think that's a little bit different or just you think women have a different approach. And I know you said like it starts with like loving yourself in a way. Um,
Mhm.
but I do think that that's how men get after the base level of, okay, I want to be alive. I feel like men get to the next step of like, I want to be alive, but also I hate myself. And then that's how they
Yeah.
improve.
I think this shows the dichotomy between the emotional intelligence between most men and most women. So like when most men they go in and they start going to the gym a bit kind of like off that self hatred like Dave was talking about. You'll go to the gym, you'll see results, you'll do the thing that you set out to do, but then in the end, after you achieved your goal, you still hate yourself. And so then you'll try
Mm.
to find it. Then you'll try to find another goal to get better at and achieve that goal. And then once you achieve that goal, the same thing happens. And then it always feels like you're trying to fill up a cup with a hole in it. The cup being yourself, and the things that you're doing being the water. So you're like trying to fill it up. There's a hole at the bottom. So it doesn't really matter how much you do and how much you progress. You're always leaking because you're not healed yourself or you're not fully comfortable with your being. And I don't think like a lot of guys do that because they can see the external success that they're getting. They can see results in the gym, the money that they're bringing in the bank, the cars that they drive, the house, like the stereotypical like male things that go on. And I think it's definitely unhealthier in terms of like from like an emotional standpoint and like from loving yourself. Just saying you see a lot of the successful people in the world doing this, and that's what kind of gets them there because they're always unsatisfied with what they're doing. Women, like girls and women in particular, they're a lot more emotionally intelligent, and they realize they got to be a full cup. They got to be a cup without a hole in it. So they got to love themselves first, and then they're doing the things that they want to do, and that motivates them to just improve themselves, like deep down. If that makes sense. Sorry, I rambled for a
You
little
think?
bit.
No, no, no. That's a good point. I'm just wondering, like, where do you think this self-loathing stems from?
I,
Because I'm thinking like the average man, I feel like the self-loathing is actually pretty common from what I've seen, but I don't feel like anyone is like telling young men to be like, you should hate yourself. There's no other way to be better. It starts with hating who you are. Do you think it comes from like seeing that other people are only successful because they've hated themselves, or do you think it like starts somewhere else?
I think like Luke said, like Luke was saying, the successful people, it's like a vicious cycle because you see the successful people be like, hey, like never be satisfied. That one, I don't even know his name, but that one guy who's like, if you're not making $100,000 a week, like you're not a man or whatever, right? So I think like there is a lot of that, the culture of like, hey, you need to realize that you're not in a good spot and therefore you need to improve yourself. Um, Whereas I think like you see successful women, like I'll see, because my feed is all gym stuff most of the time and cats. Um, I like I'll see once in a while like a woman like gym influencer, right? And she'll post about her progress and like like read the caption and it'll be like, oh, like I'm so happy I came this far. Like like the impetus is or the emphasis is on like, hey, like I used to be like this, and I like love who I was, but also like I'm happy with who I am now and like the journey, and like basically, um, just being content with and happy with like improving, right? I think the improvement is the goal for a lot of like the women I see like post about it, whereas like the men, it's so much more of a concrete, quantitative like end goal, and I think that it's it's hard because like Luke said, like women I think are more emotionally intelligent. So women realize like, hey, like you have to be content with the journey and the improvement, and that you're comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, not like who this guy is today. Um, Whereas men, it's much more like they think that achieving this concrete goal will make them happy, but the goalpost is always moving. Or like every single time you get to that goalpost and there's one 100 yards down the field. Like it's never gonna be enough. Um, but I do think it does stem from like a lot of it stems from social media, and the successful guys are like, hey, like no, you gotta hate yourself. Like you're too fat. You're not big enough. You don't make enough money, right? Like, and that's what men hear, right? Like all the time.
Yeah, and to kind of continue off of that, like I think social media plays like a huge factor. But then if we also look at like the traditional like family values or like the family like structure, the man, quote unquote, is supposed to be like the provider for the family. And like there's always been some sort of like deep insecurity with if you can't provide for your family. And so what's the best way to provide for your family? It's like you want to be big, you want to be strong, you want to be financially stable. Um, and the way that you can provide even better for that is just to build up on those things, be bigger, be stronger, have more money. And you get to a point where it's just like you can never get big enough, you can never have enough money, and that's just like the cycle that we're kind of stuck in. You're never just like you're never satisfied. You're always like wanting a little bit more. And I don't know if that's like a cultural thing here in America. I don't know if that's like different anywhere else. But it definitely feels like you always have to do or get a little bit more, whatever that may be.
I think, and then I want to hear Nicola's like thoughts on this too. I think part of it, this may be opening a whole new can of worms, like an hour into the podcast, but part of it I think is like, put it bluntly, like dating culture, right? Like I think that there's been a lot said about like men and how I think a lot of the, I don't think it's bad. I think like holding a certain standard is good, right? Like and choice and your partner and like being able to be with a partner that can actually provide or be with a partner you actually want to be with, I think, yeah, obviously inherently a good thing. But I think that there is so much more of a pressure now, um, especially now that, social media, so we can see the top 1%, right? We can see the most fit guys that, 10 out of 10s, they make a million a year. And um, you got a lot of guys who, not bad looking guys, fine careers or fine goals, but they're constantly being told like, hey, if I'm not one of those guys, if I'm not one of the top 1%, I'm never going to be able to be in a relationship. I'm not going to be like competitive in like the dating market, the dating scene. So I think that I'd say a big part of it is like the dating scene, right? Like I'd probably put money on like that being one of the biggest factors in why men are constantly like self-loathing or constantly chasing the dragon of improvement and trying to chase the next goal. Um, I don't know if from your stance, what your views of that.
I would like wholeheartedly. Well, I can't speak for the man part, but I feel like I've done a lot of, I'll say, field research. Um, into like dating. I've just been thinking about it a lot from like a more like what the hell is going on perspective rather than like who am I trying to find. But I do see that a lot. Like I will say in a lot of female circles, you do hear a lot of like, what does he do for a living? How tall is he? Like, and sometimes you'll have like other random criteria, and it feels more like a checklist than it does anything else. Um, I think girls probably have the same sort of thing, except they're less honest about it. 'Cause the thing about like being a girl is like from the time you're very young, like you see these beautiful women all the time who are like 10 out of 10s. And I do think a lot of like women bashing on men now is a result of us finally just being able to because it's been done to us for so long. Um, Whereas, like, the self-improvement thing was really interesting for women because, like, I don't think women can say, like, "Oh, I hated my body, so I changed it." Like, other girls would be like, "What kind of example are you setting? This is so horrible." They'll be like, "No, like, I loved myself into the way I am, but also I got plastic surgery and I'm never gonna tell anyone. You're gonna think this is real." Like, I think it's like we're probably going through similar experiences. I do feel bad for the men and the dating apps and, like, the dating culture in general. I feel bad for the women too. I think like we're both gonna suffer until we realize that the enemy is also the person we're trying to be with. And I don't think we've like come to that point yet, where we like realize that as a society of single people.
Yeah, I think that's part of what I've been seeing too is I saw some video, I think it's like Cole Hastings or something, but like he makes like a little like
Oh, I love
cult
Cole
culture.
Hastings.
Okay, you're familiar. Yeah, I saw some video about like the dating scene, right? Like men and women, how it's so confrontational. It's so much like um I keep saying like vicious cycle, right? But like you hear, you know, just speaking from the male side, but I know it happens for the female side. Like, you'll get a guy who hears, and I know they don't speak for even the majority of women, but some influencer on the street says into a mic, they're like, "Hey, this guy has to be 6'8" and make $300,000, and um, also here's my list of like 30 icks that if you have any of these like small habits that you do like immediately off the table, right?" And I think that like on one hand, you get the men that like, oh, okay, now I'm self-loathing, like now I kind of hate it, but it is and it's not to sympathize exactly with like the whole incel culture or like the whole like I just can't get a date. Like some guys just truly just don't improve themselves. Some guys just truly don't try to make themselves attractive as a partner. But like there is a true danger to and an inherent like problem with like you said, it's just vilifying the other side. Right now it's like we're now at a point where like you said, it may very well be that like women now have like the ability to be more selective and therefore like are more vocal with those standards. But now you also have guys, and some of them, like I said, just don't put the effort in. But some of them are like genuinely just guys like, they'll hear all of this all day, and now they're like, all right, well, I guess women are the enemy. Like I guess they're um I I don't have control over like I can't be 6'5", right? So like there's some of those things that just make it so you've got like young guys now that um just hate women, and I think that it's a tough suck. I honestly don't know what like the solution would be. I think that social media is just a plague, and I think that having like I think if you interview someone on the street and like you're asking about like, oh, like I think you should be like blacklisted from ever being able to post on the internet. I think you're just toxic for the culture. Um, but yeah, I don't exactly know what like the solution is, right? Because like now it's like the political spectrum, same thing. Like everyone's just so um polarized now where it's like you just hate the other side. Where like women are like, oh, men don't want to improve themselves. Like they're trying to make us settle for like a less suitable partner, and then men are like, oh, women have too high of standards. We can never meet those. And it's just a tough battle. I think everyone's fighting.
You this is such like a loaded question. This is like rage bait content I'm about to like bring up.
Let's
I
go
got
with it.
back on TikTok for like a month and then I literally had to delete it. It was like so bad. I felt the the terrible like I literally felt it like rot my brain in a month. But I got on right at the right at the moment where the chopped epidemic became a topic of conversation. Are you familiar with this?
Familiar with the term
No,
chopped, but like not so much the full scope.
no,
It
I'm
it
not aware
was
of this at
like
all.
crazy discourse. It was a girl who basically made like a really inflammatory TikTok about how men don't take care of themselves, how they're all ugly, how they're this. The comments, it was like a war zone. It was so scary. It was like one girl versus like thousands of men being like, "Are you serious?" Blah 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 blah. But then you had like men making videos in response, and they were all really aggressive. And then you had more women like backing her point, and then you had like two people with like brain cells being like, "Hey, we're all actually very mediocre in this life. Like most of us are not 6 foot, and the rest of us are not like Megan Fox. Like we are all very average people, and we need to like realize that at some point. And like I think humility is a virtue that we've really lost, and I think if we like cultivated that a little more, I think we'd probably see some improvement across the board.
So now that you mention it, I do think I've seen. I saw some. I think it was in that Cole Hastings video about like seeing the comment section of just like men fighting women, like being like, actually, you're a 2 out of 10, and then like the same thing from the other side. Um, but I do think, and like I said, something that I mentioned to Luke one time about um just like a small anecdote of like someone in the gym, or like you'll get a lot of like gym influencers now who like no hate, but like they're very much inexperienced. I look at them, I'm like, okay, you've been training for maybe like 2 months, right? Like but you're talking like you're this guru, you're talking like everyone should be listening to you. And it is that like that lack of humility. It's like everyone thinks now that because they have a platform, because they have a few hundred people that listen to them, that they're a 10 out of 10 and that they're a prize, like men and women both. And I do think that like everyone does have a way higher self-inflated ego than like they should. I think like I think even like I try to stay away from social media generally, as much as I like can. As an iPad baby, um, but like even me, like I'll see you can't help but like be exposed to just so many people posting about themselves, posting about their lives, and like not have that little bit of like, oh, okay, I'm doing better than this person, like therefore I'm like the best, right? And now you have every single person in our generation thinking they're the best because they have a few hundred people like their photos once in a while.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of the people that are influencers should just go outside, go take a walk, go check out their local Walmart, and just like look at like what the average population kind of looks like. Not everybody is like social media famous. Not everybody's like a TikTok star. Not everybody's like a perfect 10 out of 10. Most people are just kind of they're average people. They should just you know go outside some more. That's that's my solution. Go outside.
I
Go
have
touch
this
grass.
this thought sometimes, and I think ever since I heard it, I haven't really been able to stop thinking about it. Like, if we all lived in a medieval village, like you could have been like the bad. Excuse my French. Like you could have been like the baddest bitch in your medieval village
Hmm.
if it wasn't for the fact that we have everything we do now. And it was supposed to make our lives better, and it has. Um, but I always think about like sometimes I'll see people and I'm like, okay, like you're not the best looking person I've ever saw, but like if we were in a medieval village, would I feel
Hmm.
differently? Perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. And it's so weird too, because it's like you can go on social media and we have like editing apps and you can like just post you can post your best pictures of you or the pictures that you want everybody else to see. But then we've all met those people that look like they're 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s on Instagram, on TikTok, and then you like run into them in person or you know them in person and you're just like changed. I don't know what you did, but you changed. You're more of like bad looking, but just different than how you present yourself to the world.
Just look very real. That's a very typical New York experience. I feel like I've seen some influencers before, or like I'll be at a bar. I've met some, and they're terrible online as they are in person. The ones I've met like look pretty similar to how they do on like TikTok and whatnot. But um, have you ever seen those like off guard photos? Like there's like a Reddit thread for this, I think, where it's like celebrities caught off guard or like influencers caught off guard and they just like look crazy different. And it's actually like it's very comforting to see that, I would say.
Yeah, like even the people that we idolize are like can look normal, which is kind of cool.
That's the only benefit of like I think it's gone away now or it's not as mainstream, but like paparazzi culture of like when like 10 years ago they'd have like TMZ and it'd be like a picture of like look at this celebrity on the beach, look at how fat he is, and then everyone would be like haha like but like it's like a 9 out of 10 actor. It's like it'll be a guy like Henry Cavill and it'll be like look at a guy like this, like look at how fat he is, and then not that I'm saying it's a good thing, or maybe I did portray it as a good thing, but like, but like you'll see, I think that there was a lot more back, even 10 years ago of like, hey, like look at these people, they're normal people, or like even if it's malicious, like, oh, this person doesn't look like they do online, this person doesn't look like, but like I do think that is something that we're lacking nowadays. It's like we said, like you can post. I mean, I'm very much guilty of it. I post like I'm like I gotta find the right lighting. I'm like 2 inches to the left. I gotta make sure like I have the like I had enough electrolytes today. Like I'm very much guilty of it too. But like it's just uh it's a problem with I mean just what gets the views, right? Like what gets the clicks. Like it's polarizing stuff. It's things that make other people feel bad about themselves because you're portraying yourself as like in the best light possible, and it's it's what sells. And I guess that's kind of the problem is, and well, like you said, also it's just we're exposed to so much more of it, right? Like I think, um, even like 10 years ago, you don't. I remember 10 years, like probably like 8 years ago when I started lifting, like I was like, oh, like I'm like pretty strong, like I think I look pretty decent, like I like had like a pretty good self image of myself, and like I've gotten back up to that these days, but like you'll get kids now, men and women, and they'll see like you said, the 10 out of 10s, which in a medieval village, you never would have seen someone like that. You would have like that would have been one in a million, and they are 1 in a million. But I'll see a guy who's been lifting for less time than me, who's twice my size, and lifts 5 times more weight. Or I'll be like, okay, like I guess I'll go screw myself, right? Like it's it's such a it's such a detrimental issue to like just see that and it's normalized. And like we said about like dating apps, not to even get into dating apps, but like dating apps, you scroll, you swipe on 10 people, and like let's be like some of those 10 people are probably 1 in a million in looks, and then you're like, okay, like those are the only ones I'll settle for. Right? Like you're not even like I'm not gonna settle for anyone my level. I'm gonna only settle for like the 1 in a million, like hottest people on earth.
Settling for is crazy. I love how you said I wouldn't settle for anyone like me. Like it has to be someone way out. Um, I maybe that's probably the problem with it, right? Is it's like part of me. I've gone through this crisis. I'm like, at some point in my life, I will have to settle on something. It might not be a relationship, but it might be my career, might be where I live. Like you just can't have everything. And like how does one go about not making themselves feel bad for settling? Because I actually feel like there is more external pressure not to settle than there is internal pressure. Like especially at least for girls, right? Like you could, and I think actually this is a guy experience too, where like you're afraid to show your friends the picture, not because you don't like the person, but because of what they'll say. And it's like I have no problem with it. I don't think I'm like settling, but maybe I'm afraid that someone else will. Maybe the solution here is just like to never share anything about yourself ever with people who are on the internet, which is probably the right solution.
Yes,
I mean,
return to monkey.
Luke's seen it. Like if I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of a lot of things. I think that's what we established. But like it's exactly what you just said, right? Like, I'll be like last year I was like seeing someone, I was like, oh, like I like this person, and then I went home for Christmas. Oh, I guess this is wait, two
Six
years
months
ago
ago.
now.
Oh, never mind.
No, this is 2 years ago when I was like, oh, I'm seeing this person, and then everyone's like, oh, like let me see a picture, and I'm like, oh, like I don't really have any pictures. I hit on Instagram, all that, and like it's it really is. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like it's so external. Like even if you like this person, you're attracted to this person, like you think that you guys are too good together. You guys both like each other, which I think is like the biggest thing. You guys both liking each other. You're like, oh, well, what if my friends think that they're not that attractive, or what if my friends think that like they're lesser? And it's even with like me and like Luke and like our group, I'm like very close friends I've known for like 10 plus years. I'm still like, oh, like I don't know, like they're gonna judge me, and I don't think I didn't do right by them. Almost, it's not about me; it's about doing right by them.
No, that's definitely true. There's so much just social pressure to I don't know. It especially when it kind of comes to dating and like career, you want to it almost like it feels like you got to make the right decision not only for yourself but like for your family and for your friends and for whoever you decide to share it with because you also care about their opinion. And maybe this can go into like a bigger topic of like why like being like a people pleaser and always caring about other people's opinions can be like an issue. Because at the end of the day, you have one life. You should live it the way that you want to live it, and not by the scrutiny or by the opinion of other people.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people date for what I think is social capital. It's like for being able to say that I'm with a person that has XYZ or looks a certain way. Um, I think the not to bring it back to improv, but I think like this is another scenario where I'm like, oh, I actually think this is applicable here. Like it's having the confidence in yourself to be like, this is what I believe and I don't care what you think and this is how I'm going to act. And like strengthening confidence as a muscle. So things like that don't get to you as easily.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's good because it's something that it's going to need a lot of repetition and a lot of practice because you're going to be bad at it. Like if you're a people pleaser, because I know I am one and I've been one and I'm trying to like work out of it slowly but surely. But you never want to let other people down. But it takes a lot of repetitions to tell people like how you truly feel and to share your opinion and like share what's like truly on your mind and not just trying to say the right thing or like to say the thing that like makes the most amount of people happy. Because at the end of the day, I think you betray yourself and you betray your soul.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that it is something that, but like I think I always take like the more pessimistic, depressing take on things because I just like to point out problems and don't know actually how to solve them. Um, but I think that like it's one of those things that I fully agree that like everyone should like have more confidence in themselves, like believe more, like be willing to speak their mind. Like Luke said, like not be worried so much about whatever other people think you think. Um, but like I don't know exactly like how we circumvent that with like social media, right? Like because all that all people want to see is what is like the best of you and also that you agree with them, right? Like I mean, I remember like my political stance has changed 20 times in the past 8 years, but like when it changed back in like 2016, 2017, or 2020, like I can't even count the amount of people that cut me off immediately as soon as I like said something that I believed, and like they were like they didn't agree with. But it is something that I think is it's admirable when you can stand up to it in a way, like not to toot my own horn, like in a way because I was like, oh, I was happy that like I'm speaking my mind, like so what if some people like don't agree and they cut me off. At the same time, like it's admirable, but it's so difficult too. Like I'm blessed enough to like have enough people close to me that will support me regardless, or like will still be around even if they don't exactly agree with 100% of what I say. Luke always disagrees with what I say. Um, but like I think it's tough, especially for a lot of people who don't have that like at least very close, fully supportive net, um, who only have these parasocial relationships on the internet, or who only have their followers, right? Like they're like, I can't let my true self be seen. I can't be true to myself because I will lose the only social connection and the only people who believe in me when they don't even truly believe in you. They just want to see you say what they believe, basically.
Yeah. I with the pseudo dream of becoming like a Gymshark sponsored girly and things like that. I think the reason I want to put myself out there and like I actually want to start writing more so than anything, but I'm like so afraid of that experience myself. Um it's like the scariest thing I think nowadays to like let your true face be seen. And I noticed I don't know if you guys feel this way as people who like actually post out into the void, but as soon as I have to post for like an audience that I can no longer name, it's like my personhood disappears. I'm like, I'm not there anymore. Like it has to be on like a close story where I know exactly who is seeing it, or there is just like triggered fear automatically. You guys find that you have the same experience with like this podcast or any other posting that you do?
I I'll say no because I kind of forget that the podcast gets uploaded. I just kind of view the podcast as me and Dave catching up. And when we do get views and we do get likes on our videos, I'm just like, oh, probably should not have said a couple things, but that's okay. I'll live with those consequences.
I say since I'm involved with the actual posting and like the seeing the a little more of the interaction directly, like as in like the two comments we've ever received, one of them being Luke. Um, I think that in contrast, it's honestly helped, right? Like as compared to like social media, like you were saying, when you post to like close friends or when you see like who's already seeing it, I'm a lot more careful about like, oh, like I'm posting this, here's all my honestly, it's Pet Baby again. Like I'm like looking at like, oh, who's seen this? Like, what are they gonna think? Like, does anyone like this to validate that like this is socially acceptable to say? Whereas like the podcast, I think honestly has most of it is just personal therapy with between me and Luke, right? Like that's the main goal or the main objective. But like I do think it has helped, even if in just a slight way of like, hey, like we're gonna just speak our minds and just put it out there. And I do think that is like you were like kind of with improv, like you were saying, it's just it is an exercise in confidence. And I think that before, even when we were posting to less people back in the day, I was a lot more fearful of like, hey, like we need to make sure we say the right things. I used to cut down a lot of what we said. Um, we used to drink while we did the podcast, so there was a lot more to be cut. Um, but like I do think it has helped in a way. Like I think I feel the opposite way of like I I have a lot less fear of speaking my mind now, considering that, you know, even if just a handful, even if like five strangers see our video and they watch a few minutes of it, I'm like, okay, like they they have seen this and we haven't just immediately gotten just the fact that we haven't ended up on some like Reddit as like, hey, like hate these guys, they're fascists. That's a good enough thing for me. So maybe if we become controversial and like we become the target of like a hate campaign, maybe I'll change my tune. But as of right now, I'm like just the fact that I'm like, okay, a few strangers have seen this and at least they don't outright like hate me as a person and think I'm a corrupt person. That is that is a bonus over like just my friends and followers and people I somewhat know seeing it. Um, it is an exercise in confidence in that way, I think.
I feel like you guys have never said anything like super. Maybe that outs me too, but I'm like, "Yeah, I don't feel like anything's ever been super outrageous." Um,
Yeah, I mean,
that
anytime that we've
probably isn't
said
true.
yeah, anytime that we've said anything like super outrageous, one, we might cut it if it's like really, really bad. And they're just kind of like a joke between friends type of thing where like the internet doesn't or like our families don't need to know about it. Or two, it's like if it is something like a more fringe topic or something that's like politically relevant or worldly relevant, we tend to approach it with like an open mind and we try to like attack it from like a bunch of different viewpoints and then we openly admit like we don't know everything, we don't have a strong opinion about a lot of the things that we talk about, and the things that we do have strong opinions about, like it doesn't really matter, like nobody, it's they're just opinions at the end of the day. We have no power in anything, so it's just fun to talk about these things that you typically won't be able to talk about, like hell, like even with like a bunch of our friends, they don't care about the things that we talk about, or and it's a lot of things that we do speak about definitely is not safe to say in like a work environment. So it's just like fun to do.
I mean, yeah, like Luke saying that, for example, like sometimes when Luke and I, like, the funny thing is whenever we, hop on the phone or even when we see each other in person and we talk, like this is how we talk, right? Like we have we play it up like maybe 5% for the podcast, but most of how we're talking we could just record and release as a podcast. Just because like these are like fun ideas we like to have. We like to just talk about fringe topics sometimes and like our wild takes on them. But I think that like yeah, like we've had discussions before, like in front of friends, and literally noticed like the rest of them started to shift away. Like they'll just walk away and just let me and Luke talk because they're like, I don't care about any of this. But
And then the one friend that stays or tries to stay in the conversation, you can just see his eyes glaze over, and it's just like, yeah, he's not there anymore. It's just me and Dave talking.
but I think what has helped too on like using like you haven't seen any. If you want to see more fringe or like more like out there discussions. The first 10 episodes we ever released, those were back when I was a little more, I'm just going to put it bluntly, a little more extreme. Um, before I'd matured as a person, especially when we were
and
drinking.
yeah, a little bit more intoxicated too. So
Yeah. But
your
I think
words were
like,
flowing freely.
but I think like, it comes with age. I think the maturity, as we've talked recently, I think what's helped me specifically, because I was always like, because I'm not going to loop into the bus. I was always the one throwing out the most fringe, extreme takes on things. Um, what's helped me especially is like just maturing in mindset of like, hey, I don't know everything, and like I'm just trying to notice some things, or like, hey, like here's some facts I saw, or here's something I heard. Like, what do you think on this? Like, here's what I might think on this. Um, instead of taking like just concrete takes like I used to. And I think that that's made me feel less hesitant, like back in the day, about posting about it, about sharing my opinions, because I'm like, hey, like this is just like this is not me making a stance to try to argue with you or try to get you to believe me. This is just me saying like, hey, like this is what I think about this, presented with current information. Like, what do you think? Like just having that, like Luke said, that more open mind has helped me be more comfortable with speaking my mind in general. Um, but maybe it's just because I'm a coward and don't have my own opinions anymore, and so I don't have to like back it up because I don't actually believe anything anymore. So maybe that could be part.
Yeah, there's like a Seneca quote. I believe it's Seneca. If it's not Seneca, it's one of the other Greek philosophers. But the quote goes is admitting that you know nothing at all, and I think that's just basically what our podcast has become over the past couple of years. It's started with Dave with a lot of strong opinions, and then it's slowly developed. You see this mostly with Dave. Slowly become open to more and not really knowing anything
Podcast is just like sort of an
to
audio
know
diary of
everything.
David getting better as a person, like a slow progression.
It's me cutting his internet so he doesn't say anything too bad about me.
Right, he really had something to say there. We took it out. No, I think that's probably like the best stance to have, and it's unfortunately refreshing. I've noticed a lot of the people in my life, at least, that have the strongest opinions also have the like least examined opinions. And I'm like, I think you're being a good person, but you've actually never questioned what you're saying. And that makes me wonder, like, if something else came up like later on in life, would you question that if you should? Because I think there's a lot of moments where people will like have a stance that is popular and they think they're doing the right thing. And it isn't until like 5 or 10 years later when all of a sudden out of nowhere we're like, hey, actually no, we all decided that that was bad what we did. Um, and like nobody ever thought about it. They're like, oh, I believe that.
Hard for me to vilify people like that, right? Because like I have that with, for example, like he doesn't listen to this podcast. He'll be fine. My roommate, right? Like so, like I'll chat with him about like politics or like something going on in world events, and like he'll say something about like, hey, like I think this because he'll like preface it like, oh, like I haven't really looked into it, but I believe this. I'm like, well, like I believe less strongly my point, and I've looked into it more than you. So like, but it's hard for me to vilify people like that, or like be like, hey, like you're wrong for doing what you do, because um part of a maturity thing is I was blessed um to have been extreme and believed all my like super fringe opinions and been super outspoken about it. I was blessed to have done that um in an era like right before I would have been canceled for all of it. And like in an era when I was a high school kid, college kid, like it's a little more not to say it's acceptable, but it's a little more acceptable. When you're in school, you're still figuring things out. You're not developed at all in the frontal lobe to have those. So like now that I've matured to a way where I'm like, okay, I didn't know what I was talking about. I would just have these opinions, like you said, because I heard it was the right thing to do, and I heard that since it's right, I must believe it, and I must tell everyone that I believe it. Um, so like while it does annoy me, initially, I'm like, hey, like you haven't read into this, you haven't done any research, and you believe this strongly. I also am like very sympathetic towards those kinds of people because I'm like, I can see exactly why you believe that, and I can see exactly why, like, um, like where you're coming from, but it makes it doubly hard though because I'm like I know now that I know nothing, and I know now that like this is what I believe to be the correct approach to life. To not, s- I think just like strongly believing in things in general is like always a gamble, because we no one knows anything ever, and I always see like when I see like politics and everyone who talks about what's going on in the world, I'm like you don't really know, do you? Like I don't know because I know you don't know because I don't know and no one knows. Or like the people running the show don't know. Um, So it is hard when I start to see those people like parrot the same things I used to say or parrot the exact opposite. Because I'm like, you guys, it's like horseshoe theory or like the political spectrum. People at the extremes are pretty similar. Like they're like in terms of like their cognitive ability and what they actually like try to think about and how they try to reason out what they actually believe. They're probably not doing that much of that at the extremes, and it is hard to see that. But I do hold out hope is if I can turn myself around, then hopefully one or two other people can. But
You guys both, uh, am I quoting it correctly? Extreme lefties, apparently. Okay.
Yeah, Dave's an extreme lefty now. We we took the political compass test, and yeah, we're both left leaning. Dave farther than me.
I need to retake that. That's a good quiz. There are some quizzes I think like people should take like once a year. Just like make sure they're up to date on where they stand. I feel like that's one of those. It's probably an important one.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially around like the election cycle. Just to be like, oh, what do I believe in? What am I voting for?
I feel like I would
Yeah, we've
almost
got
take that.
a
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we've got a new mayor, so I've been hearing a lot about that. Well, we're in the running for a new mayor.
Mamdani.
Seen
Yeah,
anything about that?
I've heard a lot
Yeah.
about that, and I'm nowhere near New York politics, and I've heard a lot about that. I'll reserve any of my opinions for off the pod. But yeah, we're saying I lost my train of thought. The politics got me thinking. Sorry.
no, yeah,
Like finally some good thoughts we can't discuss.
it's just off-air topics. No, but Nicola, you're right. There are some just like tests that we should take like every year just to see how much we're changing, like the standard like just personality um test, because I remember taking that like in the very beginning of undergrad, and I am now currently on the complete opposite spectrum of where I started and where I am now. So like I was like a INTJ or something like that, like the 16 personalities, and then now I'm like a ENT something, just complete different spectrums and complete different side. So it's interesting to see how much you can change in a couple of years.
I've had like the opposite experience where I take the MBTI every year and I've
Okay.
gotten the same thing every time.
Oh, nice.
But I'm like, okay, I'm like, oh, this is stability.
Yeah,
This is
you're
great.
consistent. There
No,
you go.
actually, I haven't changed as a person. I haven't grown.
Zero growth, zero development.
I'm like, you say no growth, I call it stability, like tomato, tomato.
I mean, it's hard. It's always weird to see though that like I said, I'm a coward with no opinions, so I don't know which one is right. Like whether I should be more consistent in my views or like I've probably shifted more than anyone I know on like we took that political compass test what like less than half a year ago and
Yeah.
like what like 2 months ago, and I'm sure I've shifted further than I shifted last time in the past 2 months, right? So like I like on one hand I'm like does that mean I'm improving as a person? Does that mean I'm like growing and maturing, or does that mean I'm a spineless coward that doesn't know what he believes?
Or
And it's
you're just emotionally volatile.
yeah, I think that's part of it too. I think Luke and I always joke that the biggest change with me, politically and like how I believe things, is that I just learned like empathy from human beings, and like I think that's been the biggest change for me. I'm like, oh, like I think that I do think I believe in human rights, and I do think that people should live and things like that. And maybe that's like something that I should have learned before I was 25, but
Yeah. That's typically like a pre-kindergarten type of lesson, like the golden rule type of
But
situation.
you're moving always more towards human rights, not away from that. It's always
Cor-
more.
Correct. Towards more.
Okay,
Towards
Yeah,
more.
okay, so we're moving
towards.
in the right direction.
I mean, it is things where like now I'll see videos of I don't know if you guys have seen that I want to say it's like Palantir maybe. It's like the CEO or whatever. It's just I think it's the guy who like injects young blood into himself and like does like transfusion whatever, right? Like I saw some video of some guy interviewing him. I think it's the Palantir guy, and like he asked him a question. He was like, "Hey, like, do you believe that the human species should survive?" And like the guy like paused, and he was like, "Why are you hesitating?" And he was like, "Well, I'm just." Hmm. And he like thought about it. I was like, okay, this is at least I'm not a 40-year-old CEO that hasn't figured out the question to that one yet. At least like I've grown in that sense. But it does worry me when I see people that like are in power uh, ponder the question of like whether the human species should survive. Like that scares me a little bit.
I feel like there's maybe I haven't discovered empathy yet, but I feel like I could see arguments against it. Not that I'm saying that's correct. I could see an argument
Yeah,
against it.
they're probably
Although
all.
I'm more
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm more in the camp like I think we would probably destroy ourselves before we can even debate whether we should survive. Is kind of how it feels like we're going nowadays.
Yeah, this is kind of like the Terminator Skynet type of situation where it's just like, yeah, the AI becomes so smart and it just realizes that humanity's bad for itself, so it just might as well kill them now because they're just going to kill each other eventually.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that sense, but I'm definitely going to timestamp that so I can like rip it out of context and clickbait everyone into thinking that we have a guest that doesn't believe in the survival of the human species. It's gonna be
Perfect.
our that's gonna be our end.
It's like, yes, Dave's not alone.
We all hate humanity here. I think it's to be alive and to be human is a really beautiful experience. I think a lot of people take for granted and like my life has gotten significantly better since I started believing the human experience is worth living. I think is like a common experience. It's like not
Yeah,
unique by any
yeah,
means.
yeah.
Um, but it's like hard to convince other people of the same thing. Like even when we were talking about like the cynicism with like dating and self-loathing, I'm like, how do I talk to somebody that believes in all those things? And I'm like, actually, like it's nice to be a human. And there's all these great parts where like you don't have to hate yourself and one another. Like I'm like, there's some good parts to this, but it's hard to convince other people of it unless they get there themselves, I think.
Mhm.
So I've also always told people too, I'm like I like to read and listen to podcasts and like hear people's takes on things, but um from personal experience, like this is like a small anecdote from I was back in high school, I was dating this girl and like my buddies at the gym were all like, hey, like I think she's bad for you, dude. Like I think like they're like one thing that seems like a good relationship. And I was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Like I was like in like my second relationship, these guys have all like been through multiple relationships, like have kind of run the gauntlet. I was like, you guys are idiots. Like I know exactly what I'm doing. A month later, I was like, I guess you guys are right. But like that experience made me realize I'm like, oh, like you can't no matter like I trusted these like they're like good friends. I like have full trust in these guys, but I could not see like past that, past my own like emotional response to it. And that's kind of why I've always told them like you can read books, you can listen to podcasts, you can do interviews, but at the end of the day, like I'm of the belief that like if you don't arrive to like these life changing or like your these life altering views on the human experience by yourself, you just can't arrive there anywhere else. So you can't read a book and learn these things. You have to go through it yourself and learn it for yourself.
I'm seeing that happen in real time with a friend. I am actually like of the belief that a terrible first relationship is a canon event, and everyone needs it. Like there are some things you can only learn through with experience, and like I have a friend where I'm like, look, I hope you don't get married. I guess I'll support you if that's the case, but I hope that this is just a canon event, and like I'm just gonna let it play out because there's nothing I could say to you right now that would let you see what I have seen. Like I have been in your spot.
Mhm.
So I'm like, you just let it play out. But it's tough to watch,
Yeah,
mainly
and
as a
then how do you
watcher.
go about like if you're like seeing these observations, how do you go about like telling your friend and not be like completely rude about it and not just like completely dismantle their relationship in front of them? Like what steps should you take?
Mm, that's a great question. I think like in girl circles, it's a lot of like we're gonna shit talk your boyfriend behind your back and to
Uh,
your face, but like in a
uh,
kinder way until you realize that like he's kind of terrible.
okay.
Um, yeah, I feel like that's all you can do, right? Because you can't like be so bad that you like lose a friend. You have to like play this balance of like you're my friend and I love you. I also like don't agree with what you're doing. I can't hammer it home too hard because then I'll lose a friend and then you'll still be with a shitty boyfriend and it's like a pyrrhic victory where it's like, yeah, sure, maybe I won, but like not really.
Yeah. Yeah, you won, but what was the cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, you lose a friend. No,
I've had
it's
go
good.
ahead. Oh, okay, okay. I have had the, like that same experience where like I nearly lost some friends, where like we basically like it was only like a 2.5 month relationship, but like the last like month, I like didn't talk to my friends anymore. I was like, all right, they don't know what they're talking about. Like they're all being bad people. Like they just don't like this girl. Like, and it's the same. Like their approach was kind of the same way. We're like, we're just gonna say she's a bad person to your face. And I was like, all right, like you guys just don't want me to be. Like I was like, you guys don't want me to be happy, right? Like you guys are jealous, like that you think I'm happy. And then like, but like afterwards, luckily, like we reconciled all that. But like, it's it is. I just don't think it's possible. Like I'll tell people, I'm like, hey, like, here's my opinion on this. Here's what I think I would do in that situation. But, and I've told people straight to their face, I'm like, but I've been in your shoes. I know I wouldn't listen to me. So you're gonna do what you want to do. But that's my take, right? Like, and like you said, that's all you can do at the end of the day. You can tell them your take, and then they're gonna do whatever the hell they want to do. Um, and you kind of just gotta watch the shit show play out at the end of the day. But it's kind of how it is.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to have that sit down conversation one on one and try to have like that intervention talk about a relationship. Like just it makes my skin crawl just thinking about it because it's not going to end well. It's going to be a very uncomfortable conversation. But if you're their friend, you're almost like obligated to have it with them.
Yeah,
Even if
what's
it's a meaningless
worse?
conversation.
Yeah,
Is it like a friend that sees it and doesn't warn you or a friend that like incessantly does not stop warning you about it?
definitely the one that ignores it. Definitely, it's kind of like a parent that cares is a parent that's like points out the mistakes and just isn't constantly coddling. Um, or like the parent that's just like avoidant and like doesn't respond to their children. You want a parent that's always like in there and very similar to like a friend. You want a friend that's like involved and can see what's going on and kind of like give you a third perspective outside of your own, someone that you can trust.
Like you mentioning
I like
parents,
that comparison.
kind of like what I've heard, like some people or some parents have said, like, I'd rather you hate me than like you ruin your own life kind of thing. Like it's kind of the same thing with like I think a good friend. Like I'd rather you hate me for like saying this stuff to you rather than like me letting you just walk into it blind and then like never having tried to stop it at least. Like
Yeah,
at least I tried, even if you hate me, and like I'd rather me have done my best to or I'd rather have done my best to try to save you from a bad situation and try to look out for you, even if it means like we're not going to be friends anymore. Like even worst case, if we were not to be friends anymore, at least like I'm trying to look out for you because so I guess Luke, this is a huge sidebar, but I guess I do believe altruism exists. I do believe that actually. Now that we've talked about
I'm glad we've come full circle that you believe that people will just be good for the sake of being good.
it, I think there's good in humanity. Actually, is what I've discovered.
Do you think on the flip side, like, because I'm trying to think about how the other, it's probably a very common experience to like actually call your friends out and be like, hey, this is not good for you. But what would the flip side look like? I haven't been in that situation where I haven't had someone call me out, but would it be like you sitting down thinking about your relationship, being like, hey, that was really shitty. Did nobody else notice? Like, and then you would like bring it up with your friends, be like, did you guys see that I was getting treated really badly and did nothing? How do you think
Yeah,
like that would even work?
I think it would go one of two ways. It would either the friends would lie and say like, "Oh yeah, we didn't see anything," or the friends would be like honest and be like, "Yeah, we saw it, but we just like it's your relationship. You can kind of do whatever you want to do. It's your life, man. You can live it however you wish."
I'm
Oh,
blessed to
that's
have
the cop out argument.
Yeah,
I'm blessed to have had like you said, I've never had that experience because like like Lucas said about my outfit, people will call me out. All my friends I'm close with, like everyone that like I actually consider a friend, like none of them would ever shy away from calling me out on my bullshit. Um, so like I can't say I've ever experienced that, which is why like I can't fathom like that. I feel like that would be an instant friendship breaker, right? There's no way you could ever recover from that, be like, oh yeah, we saw you going down this dark path and like your life was going to be worse just inherently. And we decided to one, ignore it, or two, just see it and like completely do nothing about it and just let you ruin your own life. Like I can't see any way that friendship would reconcile at the point.
no.
I'm glad we've established that we all have very good friends. It would have made for better conversation if someone was like, "Actually, this has happened to me multiple times."
It would have been
Yeah,
really
oh,
good content if I'd said that Luke had done that to me. That would have made for good content. Maybe we'll
Oh,
run it back
the
next time and
yeah,
like I'll cut this part out and like I'll throw Luke under the
betrayal.
bus.
yeah. Throw me under the bus. Go for anything for views.
Anything for the win.
Yeah, ruin our friendship as long as we're getting a bunch of views. Go for it.
All
I
right.
really
Well,
hope
we've
like
been.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
think it'd be really I think it'd be really funny if like we continue this podcast like 10 years down the road and we both just like hate each other, but we still have like the obligation to do the podcast.
There's
And
that
our
theory
podcast
of
and our podcast just blows up because like half the time we're just sitting there like bickering with each other and yelling at each other. You
there's
get a
that
ton of
theory
like
of
great clips.
you ever see like Good Mythical Morning? I've mentioned them before. I watch like their show and then also like listen to their podcast once in a while. And like there's this theory that like they're like two best friends that have been doing this show for like 10 years. And like there's a legitimate theory that like they actually hate each other, but like they're basically obligated because that's their livelihood to just keep getting along and pretend that they're friends. I I think it'd be funny if we did that. I think it'd be funny where like we absolutely dread every month having to record this episode, but we have too many viewers and too many sponsorships riding on the line to like not do it.
It would be so funny if like the sponsorships just like kind of suck too. They're like the worst sponsorship deals of like we're being sponsored by like OnlyFans or like something ridiculous like that, and we're getting like $50 a month, but we're just like we have to stay in it for this.
Well, we've been going for, I think this is going to be our longest podcast ever, by the way.
No,
Yeah.
Some point.
haven't we had like a 240 before?
Have we? I feel like we
Yeah,
didn't post it if we did because,
I think we did. I think our record's 240.
oh, well, we'll
This
have to
is
go back and check.
this is coming close though.
But any wrap up thoughts or anything you want to plug, Miss New York, before
Um,
we sign off?
no, nothing from my end. God, that sounds so corporate. Um, yeah. Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure. It was the best use of 2.5 hours all day.
Oh, let's go.
We'll definitely have to try to, especially now that we've explored the difference between what we've gotten out of the echo chamber of like the male self improvement podcast. We'll definitely have to have you on some other time if you like and educate us a little more on so we're not just spiraling down male self hatred. So
Yeah.
Yeah, if
I
you need a female voice, always here.
please, that would be welcomed and very much needed. And I just a side note, I was kind of like writing this down like an hour into the podcast, and I like wrote down in my little notebook and I said, the podcast has turned into two country bumpkins interviewing a city slicker because just the first hour of the podcast, we were just like, what's New York like? Is it as bad as people say it is?
y'all
I'm
got a
like, yes.
subway.
But no, I like if we have you on again, and we probably will. We promise it won't be as much just interviewing you about New York. We'll expand a little bit.
I hope you guys do improv in the meantime. like, I would love to hear about your improv experiences. I hope
I
that's like a task that you can
I
speak with.
I did write down in my notebook to look up improv classes. Like that's something I'm like seriously considering now.
Post it as a vlog, our experience and our we don't show. We'll make sure it's on the channel so everyone can laugh
Oh
at us
yeah.
and never watch our stuff again.
Yes.
All right, well, Nicole, it was a pleasure. We'll definitely try to have you on at some point with your busy corporate schedule. But thank you everyone for listening. Luke's mom mostly and Aiden. And I'll see you guys next time.
This is Logically
Thanks,
Ignorant.
guys.
See you guys next time.